Welcome to the Tired Thinker, where ideas are tested at the edges of belief and human nature reveals itself in the slightest shift of choice. Tonight, we turn towards social experiments that changed minds, those quiet revolutions staged in classrooms, city streets, and lab rooms where volunteers became mirrors for the rest of us. These aren't just studies, they are confessions of the pressures we obey without thinking, of the courage we discover only when someone dares to ask the forbidden question, of how easily I would never becomes I didn't mean to. What is a social experiment, if not a civilization daring to look itself in the eye? A test of how far empathy can stretch before fear or conformity snaps it in two. And what if the lessons we learned didn't fade into textbooks, but linger in us, shaping the choices we don't remember choosing? So tonight, we won't judge or pretend we're above it all. We'll linger in the uncomfortable maybe, where psychology becomes revelation. A teacher once asked a simple question: what makes someone an outsider? Instead of offering answers, he set up a small experiment to show how fast we divide. He divided his class into two groups. He did not use a complex test or a deep profile. He used a random choice: blue cards for one group, green cards for the other. Each student pinned a card to their shirt. At first, the labels looked harmless. They looked like a game. Some students even smiled, but the rules that followed turned those colors into power. The blue card group got new privileges. They sat in the front. They spoke first. They got longer breaks. The teacher praised them for small things. Then he pointed out the faults of the green card group. He kept his tone even and steady. He said he only wanted order. The students followed his lead. At lunch, the blue card group moved together to one table. They laughed loud. They told each other they were lucky. The green card students sat quiet. They looked at their plates. One asked if they could switch cards tomorrow. The teacher said no. The day would continue as planned. By the afternoon, something had changed. A girl with a green card tried to raise her hand. A boy with a blue card rolled his eyes and told her to stay quiet. It had not taken long for him to believe he had the right. The teacher did not correct him. The girl lowered her hand. She did not try again. The teacher asked the class to write a short story. When he passed out the assignment, one blue card student glanced at a green card student's paper. He laughed and called the handwriting messy. The teacher ignored the comment. That silence confirmed something powerful. It said the insult was acceptable. It said the insult made sense. The green card students turned on each other. One blamed another for making them look bad. They wanted to escape the target on their backs. They tried to shift blame. They tried to shrink. They did not try to challenge the system. The system looked too stable. No one questioned why they had been sorted at all. The teacher did not use threats. He did not shout. His choices did the work. Praise moved fast. Shame moved faster. He gave the blue card group a quiz with clear answers. He gave the green card group a version with trick questions. When the grades came back, the results confirmed what everyone had started to believe. The blue cards were smarter. The green cards did not deserve trust. A student who had never bullied before told a green card boy to know his place. He did not sound angry. He sounded certain. He thought he was enforcing order. When the boy tried to defend himself, other blue card students defended the bully. They did it without planning. They did not want to lose their status. One green card student broke down. She asked why this was happening. The teacher said they needed to understand how society works. He said inequality was normal. He said some groups rise, some fall. This was nothing personal, but it felt personal to every student in the room. Shane changed posture. It slowed speech. It made the green card group small. A child who had been confident yesterday now looked like someone else. His shoulders rounded. He spoke in short sentences as if each breath cost too much effort. He expected judgment. He tried to avoid it. The blue card group grew louder. They stepped into space that did not belong to them yesterday. They joked about how lazy the others were. They did not see the trap. The trap was thinking the label made the person. A student who had been shy before raised his voice now. He liked the feeling of power. He liked being on the team that got praise. He forgot what it felt like to be ignored. The line between acting and believing faded fast. The teacher continued to push the divide. He made the green card group sit at the back. He reminded the class that the weaker group slowed learning. He spoke as if this was objective truth. He did not insult, he described. That made the harm seem reasonable. The students trusted the authority in front of them. They thought they were learning a real lesson about real differences. They accepted the hierarchy. They enforced it with a sense of duty. When the day ended, the teacher told them to remove the cards. Some students felt relief. Others felt fear. They did not know who they were without their new roles. Blue card students asked if the system could stay. They liked the comfort of superiority. The experiment showed how fast normal people adopt cruelty when someone they trust signals that cruelty is allowed. The classroom did not start with hate. It started with the desire to belong. Children did not wake up that morning as bullies or victims, but within hours, they split into both. They punished weakness. They denied empathy. They followed rewards. They feared losing favor. They let a rule decide who deserved respect. They learned how easy it is to believe a lie when it benefits you. The green card group learned something too. They learned how silence grows inside when everyone else's voice says you are less. They learned how judgment can shape the body. They learned how the mind adapts to survive mistreatment. All of it happened because a teacher taped colored cards to their shirts and told them the colors meant something. And that was enough. A volunteer walks into a small room. A researcher in a white lab coat greets him and points to a chair. The room looks plain. The walls are bare. A large switchboard sits on a desk. Rows of buttons line its surface. Each one has a label that lists a shock level. The volunteer does not know the machine is fake. The shocks are not real, but the instructions feel real. The authority feels real. The researcher tells him that the study will test how punishment affects learning. A second person sits in the next room. He will answer memory questions. Each wrong answer means the volunteer must press a button that delivers a shock. The first few questions go well. The learner gets them right. The volunteer feels calm. He thinks this will be easy, but then the mistakes begin. The researcher tells the volunteer to press the first shock button. The learner cries out through the wall. The sound travels into the volunteer's nerves. He hesitates. The researcher reminds him that the study needs to continue. He presses the button. The voice on the other side complains about pain. The volunteer tries to focus on the rules. The researcher stays calm. He does not yell. He speaks in a steady tone. He says the shocks are important for science. He tells the volunteer that he must go on. The next button has a higher setting. The volunteer does not want to press it, but he does. Each wrong answer pushes the shock level higher. A learner begins to shout. He begs for the study to stop. He says his heart hurts. He sounds afraid. The volunteer asks if they should stop. The researcher responds with a scripted line. The experiment requires that you continue. He stands close enough to feel like a shadow. His presence says more than his words. The volunteer follows orders. He presses another button. The learner screams. The shock labels grow dangerous. The volunteer leans back in his chair. He wipes his palms against his pants. He laughs a weak laugh that does not match his face. He tries to push the responsibility away from himself. He says, "You said I should go on." He looks to the researcher for permission at every step. He avoids thinking. Thinking makes the situation harder. The learner shouts he will not answer. The researcher says that not answering counts as a wrong answer. The volunteer must press another button. The volunteer asks if he will be held accountable if something happens. The researcher says he will take full responsibility. That short sentence opens a door in the volunteer's mind. Now the harm belongs to someone else. He presses the button again. The learner cries for help. Then he goes silent. The volunteer freezes. He turns his head toward the researcher. Silence raises the stakes. It pushes fear into the room. The volunteer wonders if the learner has passed out. He wonders if he caused real damage. He wants to check. The researcher blocks that urge with simple direction. Continue. The volunteer swallows and nods. He presses the next button. He waits for a scream that never comes. The silence hurts more than the shouting. He grips the switchboard. His eyes bounce between his hands and the authority figure who told him what to do. He does not like himself in this moment, but he does not stop. A few volunteers refused to continue. They stood up. They said the study was wrong. They rejected the researcher's calm pressure. But most stayed in the chair. Most pressed buttons higher and higher until they reached the final setting marked with a warning label. They did not celebrate. They looked sick. Their hands shook. Yet they pressed the button because a stranger told them to. They did it because they believed the blame did not belong to them. One volunteer kept asking the same thing. Who will be responsible if he gets hurt? The researcher always replied, "I will." That answer gave permission. It allowed harm to pass through one person into another. The button became a bridge between personal doubt and borrowed certainty. The lab coat mattered. It carried weight. It made the researcher look like someone who should know better. The clipboard, the calm voice, the scientific setting. Each piece pushed the volunteer to obey. Most did not want to be rude. They wanted to be helpful. They wanted to be seen as good participants. They pressed the button to protect their own image. Some volunteers tried to reduce their role. They pressed buttons quicker. They avoided looking at the shock labels. They tried to feel less involved. They told themselves the learner could stop the study if he wanted to. They twisted the story to ease their conscience. One man pressed each button while whispering apologies. His voice trembled. But he still followed orders. He pressed every level to the end. He tried not to think about the person he might be hurting. He tried to believe the authority over his own senses. Another man shook his head as the screams grew louder. He kept saying, "I can't do this." But he did. He told the researcher that he would continue only if the researcher accepted total responsibility. When the researcher said yes, the man pushed the next shock button without hesitation. He transferred his guilt into the lab coat in front of him. Some asked if the learner deserved the punishment. They wanted a reason to justify their actions. The researcher did not grant that comfort. He only repeated the same line, "Please continue." The rules made cruelty look like a necessary part of the task. Each volunteer sat alone in a hard chair, and learned a quiet truth. They learned how easily obedience can replace conscience. They learned how a simple command can override personal judgment. They learned how quickly responsibility can fade when someone else claims it. All that force came from one sentence: the experiment requires that you continue. A group of volunteers enters a bright room. A researcher hands each of them a stack of paper money. The instructions sound simple. They must decide how much to place into a shared pot. At the end of each round, the pot will grow. Then the new total will return to the group. The more they put in, the more everyone gains. They hear the rule. They nod. It makes sense. But the researcher adds one more detail. If someone gives less, that person keeps more money in the moment. They can hold on to their stack and wait for others to carry the weight. The group receives the growth either way. Everyone looks around. Faces show early trust. They want to believe the best. They want to think their neighbors will act fair. The first round begins. Most players drop generous contributions into the pot. They smile. They feel good. They think the group shares one goal. When they get the payout, it seems to work. The pot grew. The money returned. They clap their hands against the table. Trust feels easy. The second round feels different. One player decides to test the system. He drops less money into the center. He hopes no one will notice. When the payout comes, his personal pile looks heavier. He tries not to look pleased, but his eyes linger on the extra bills. Someone notices. They feel a quiet pinch in their mind. The researcher says nothing. The game continues. A woman who gave a high amount in the first round stares at her stack. She thinks about what the group did. She thinks about the one person who held back. She tells herself she does not want to be the fool who tries too hard. She starts to mirror the selfish choice. She places less into the pot this time. Money moves like a signal. It tells the group that trust may not be safe. During the next payout, the pot looks smaller. The room grows tense. People shift in their seats. They stop making eye contact. They glance at hands, not faces. The researcher sees the shift, but offers no guidance. The rules remain the same. The responsibility remains personal. Another player feels cheated. He says that someone is taking advantage. He does not know who. He chooses to protect himself. He lowers his contribution again. He folds the bills tight in his palm and drops only a few into the center. He feels a mix of shame and relief. Shame because he knows he has joined the problem. Relief because he does not want to lose again. The group tries one more round. The pot shrinks even more. Suspicion now fills every gap in the air. It becomes a quiet code. It says, do not trust these people. They do not care about you. They only care about their own stack. A player who once leaned forward now leans back in his chair. He crosses his arms. He looks at the others with a new lens. The word neighbor no longer fits. These people feel like unknown rivals. He wonders why he ever believed they would act fair. The researcher watches the pot collapse. He sees how the players stop thinking about the total good. They focus only on what they might lose. Loss feels close. Loss pushes the mind to protect what little remains. The players treat each other like threats. One player gives nothing at all. She sits with her hands on her stack. She says she needs her money. She does not apologize. She says the rule allows her choice. No one argues. At this point, everyone thinks the same way. They want safety more than shared success. The game ends early because the pot has almost nothing left to multiply. The group stares at the table. They do not celebrate. They do not smile. The money sits like a weight. It shows them what fear can do. It turns a fair game into a struggle where every person looks out for themselves. The researcher thanks them. He reminds them that the rules never changed. They had power from the beginning. They could have worked together. They could have grown the pot again and again. They could have built wealth they could not reach alone. They could have trusted one another. But trust vanished the moment they feared someone else might take more. Scarcity entered the room without any real shortage. There was always enough money to go around. But a single doubt moved faster than any math. The idea of losing to someone you know feels worse than losing to chance. It feels like betrayal. One participant says the others started the selfish behavior. Another says she only reacted to protect herself. A third says the group should have punished the first person who cheated. They argue about the moment everything fell apart. The truth looks simple from the outside, but inside the game, blame spreads like fog. Everyone points fingers. No one points at themselves. Even imagined scarcity divides people. When players believe that resources might run out, cooperation stops. They hoard. They watch others closely. They assume the worst. The fear of exploitation rewrites behavior faster than any threat. The enemy becomes the person across the table, not the problem itself. The players leave the room with the outcome still sitting in their hands. Some count their money and feel proud. Others feel the opposite. They stare at the bills and realize they gained nothing meaningful. They remember how good it felt at the start, when they trusted each other. They remember how fast that feeling died. This game shows a pattern that reaches beyond the walls of the lab. It repeats in apartment buildings. It repeats in office break rooms. It repeats wherever a community forgets that success grows when they work together. When people see resources as limited, they choose protection over connection. They choose suspicion over hope. A small rule change in a simple game created a shift in how people saw each other. It turned neighbors into strangers. It made every person guard their own pile. Cooperation needed nothing more than belief in each other. But belief disappeared as soon as someone reached for more. A group of people walks into a meeting room. They come from different backgrounds. Some hold high status in their daily lives. Others do not. Usually, the room itself would show who holds power. You can see it in posture, in where people sit, in who speaks first. But today, the researcher gives everyone the same plain mask. The mask covers their entire face. It hides age. It hides gender. It hides race. It hides every visible clue people used to judge each other. Each person also receives a number. That number becomes their new identity. They attach it to their shirt. It replaces their name. The researcher explains the rules. They must discuss a simple community issue. How should resources be used? How should problems be solved? The task looks easy. They think they understand. At first, they look uneasy with the masks. They cannot see smiles. They cannot read expressions. They cannot lean on habit. The silence feels heavy. People who usually take the lead wait. They do not have the same signals that guide them. They hesitate because status does not show through cloth and plastic. One person decides to speak. He wears the number 7. No one knows anything about him. His voice sounds average, not loud, not soft. He suggests an idea for sharing the resources. He talks without rush. People turn toward him because they have nothing else to follow. No face commands attention. Only words do. Someone else joins the conversation. Number 3 has a calm voice. She explains why the idea might fail. She disagrees with respect. She uses examples. Her words hold steady power because no one can see who she is. No one judges her clothes. No one questions her background. They listen. They consider her point. They treat it as equal to the first. In a normal room, some people get ignored because others expect less from them. Here, prejudice loses its usual anchor. It cannot attach itself to a gender or a skin tone. The masks build fairness without speeches or laws. They force the group to start from the same line. The discussion grows. The group looks more relaxed now. Number 9, who might stay quiet in most meetings, raises a concern about long-term costs. The group appreciates his thought. He feels heard. He keeps talking. He does not shrink back into silence. Confidence grows when people expect your voice to matter. Numbers 4 and 10 disagree about the best plan. They exchange reasons. They interrupt each other once, but they correct themselves. They sound like they are working toward a solution, not working to win. They cannot rely on status moves. They cannot flash a confident smile or a bold stance. They must make clear points. One person sits with his hands folded. He waits to speak. His voice finally comes forward. He suggests that they vote on the strongest ideas. The group nods. They feel the fairness in the suggestion. They adopt his plan. He looks surprised. He is someone who usually stays quiet in crowds. Now he shapes the direction of the room. No one knows who the leader is here. Leadership shifts with each sentence. Every idea earns attention through clarity alone. They talk about values. They talk about outcomes. The table fills with communication that feels clean. Hidden assumptions lose their oxygen. Bias cannot breathe behind the masks. The researcher watches how equal the room has become. He sees something that rarely appears in free conversation. People listen without ranking each other. They weigh ideas without checking who said them. They learn that knowledge does not sit in one type of person. It appears in anyone willing to share. As the discussion continues, masks begin to feel normal. The group forgets the strange look of each other. They focus only on content. They reach a decision about the resource problem. It comes from a mix of multiple ideas. Everyone contributed. No one dominated. No one disappeared. The researcher then asks them to remove the masks. When the first mask comes off, a woman with number 3 reveals her face. Some participants look surprised. They did not expect her voice to come from someone so young. They realized their minds had tried to form a picture. The picture was wrong. Number 7 removes his mask next. He looks older than many guessed. He expected the group to ignore someone his age. Instead, they treated his view as valuable from the start. He smiles without shame. He felt equal here in a way he does not always feel. Each mask drops. People search for hints of who held high status before the experiment. They do not find those signs in the memory of the conversation. They cannot match voices to rank. The quality of ideas remains clear. Even after the faces return, a person who stayed quiet lifts his mask last. He glances around with a shy expression. He joined the vote. He helped build the plan. He learned something important. His ideas did not need a strong image to gain a place. They deserved space on their own. The researcher tells the group what they demonstrated. They learned how identity shapes listening. When visible differences disappear, power shifts. The room becomes more balanced. People notice content, not category. They focus on what is said, not who says it. Some participants feel proud. Others feel uneasy. They think about the world outside the room. They know masks will not follow them home. They know judgments will return. They know voices will not always carry the same weight. But in that room, for one short time, everyone understood what equality feels like. They saw how quickly fairness grows when we look past the markers we think matter. They learned that respect begins with the simple act of listening without labels. A man walks down a busy street. He carries a bag of groceries. People move past him in fast waves. They focus on where they need to go. They check their phones. They step around each other with practiced ease. The man pauses, places his hand on his chest, and collapses onto the sidewalk. His groceries scatter. An orange rolls into the street. Dozens of people walk by. They slow down. They look for a moment. They tell themselves someone else will stop. They keep going. A woman sees the man fall. She thinks he must be drunk or tired. She feels unsure. She does not want to make a scene or involve herself in something she does not understand. She looks around to see if anyone else reacts. When she notices that others act calm, she copies them. She moves on. This is the bystander effect. When many people witness the same emergency, Each person assumes another will take action. Responsibility spreads so thin that it disappears. The crowd becomes a shield against guilt. The man groans. He tries to move. A teenager glances at him. He takes out his earbuds for a second. He listens. The sound of distress feels close, like it touches his ribs. He wants to help, but he worries he might do something wrong. He worries he might look foolish. So he tells himself others are more capable. He keeps walking. A delivery worker rides by on a bike. He sees the crowd already gathered around the scene. He believes help must be on the way. He pedals faster. He does not want to arrive late for the next stop. No one in the crowd realizes the same thought repeats inside every mind. A man in a suit stops near the fallen person. He checks his watch. He looks around. He hesitates. He thinks about calling emergency services. He waits for someone to show leadership first. He wants a signal from others that the situation deserves his time. He sees no urgency in their faces. He puts his phone back in his pocket. The man on the ground tries to speak. His voice sounds weak. A tourist hears the sound, but does not understand the language. She feels nervous. She takes a few steps backward. She chooses safety over involvement. She blends into the moving crowd. Some passers-by avoid eye contact. They pretend not to notice. They think if they do not look, they cannot be expected to help. They build a wall inside their minds between themselves and the problem. They convince themselves that the fallen man will recover soon. They convince themselves that everything is fine. One person kneels down halfway, but then stands again when no one joins him. He feels the weight of being the first. He feels exposed. He thinks if this were truly serious, someone else would have stepped in already. He leaves the scene. Minutes pass. Silence stretches. People continue to walk around the man like he is part of the sidewalk. The city noise swallows his struggle. The man's breathing slows. This moment happens in real life. It has been studied in cities where crowds gather. A staged emergency reveals how ordinary people freeze when others watch. Social psychologists call it pluralistic ignorance. Everyone waits for someone else to show concern first. Each person misreads the calm of the crowd as proof that help is not needed. They look for a leader. Their fear of acting wrong outweighs the clear need in front of them. A woman who works at a nearby shop steps outside. She sees the man. She does not assume anything. She bends down and asks if he can hear her. He barely nods. She raises her hand and shouts for help. Her voice breaks the silence. People turn. Some come closer now that someone else has taken charge. The spell of passivity breaks. A man takes out his phone to call for an ambulance. Another tries to create space around the victim. A third retrieves the bag and picks up the scattered items. The city reacts as if someone flipped the switch. The shift feels sudden, but it only needed one person to act first. The shop worker did not have special training. She did not hold more authority than anyone else on the street. She simply refused to assume help would come from another direction. She accepted responsibility when the crowd did not. Researchers have repeated scenes like this in many places. They place someone in distress. They count how long it takes before help arrives. The numbers change depending on how many witnesses are present. The more people watching, the slower the response. When only one person sees the event, they feel the full weight of responsibility. They act fast. When 80 people watch, each person expects relief to come from someone else. The danger comes from a simple belief: someone else will care. The man on the sidewalk finally receives medical help. The ambulance arrives. He is taken away. The people who walked past earlier do not know how close the outcome came to tragedy. They go home. They tell themselves they did not understand the situation. They tell themselves they were late for work. They tell themselves everyone else looked calm. But calm can hide fear. Calm can hide doubt. Calm can hide a decision to do nothing. The street learns that a crowded city does not guarantee safety. The number of witnesses does not predict the urgency of help. A busy place can feel empty when nobody chooses to step forward. Many eyes can lead to blind action. Many hearts can choose silence. The bystander effect does not need cruelty to exist. It grows from hesitation. It grows from uncertainty. It grows from the hope that someone else will step in so you do not have to. A single voice can interrupt that hope. A single act can shift the group. It does not take force. It takes presence. It takes noticing. It takes care that refuses to wait for permission. On that street, help finally came because one person decided the responsibility was hers. A teacher walks into a classroom with a piece of tape. It is a bright blue strip, nothing special. He kneels and places it down the middle of the floor. The tape runs from the front of the room to the back. The students watch with curiosity. They wait for him to explain. He does not talk about geography or history. He does not mention any difference between the students. He stands up and says one sentence. Everyone on this side is Group A. Everyone on the other side is Group B. That is the only rule. There is no reason for the division. It comes from the tape alone. But the room already feels different. At first, the students laugh. They think it is a simple game. They move to their assigned side. They joke about which side is better. They ask if Group A will get more points. They ask if Group B will win something. The teacher smiles, though he does not answer. He holds 2 bags of candy. He hands more of the candy to Group A. He gives only a few pieces to Group B. A shift begins. The students in Group A cheer. They enjoy the attention. They think they must have earned something. Group B feels confused. They ask why they received less. The teacher shrugs. He does not offer a reason. He continues on with the lesson, as if nothing unusual has happened. Group B tries to ignore the change, but the difference stays. It rests on the desks like a shadow. Group A students sit straighter. They start to believe they hold the better position. They tease Group B lightly at first. A comment here, a smirk there. The tape feels thin, but it begins to act like a wall. Later, the teacher asks the class to solve a puzzle. He gives Group A an easier version. Group B receives a harder one. No one explains why the difficulty changed. Group A finishes first. They tell Group B that they are slower. They call themselves the smarter group. The claim has no evidence except the candy and the easier assignment. Yet the belief grows stronger with each round of unfairness. One student in Group B questions the rules. He asks again why the line exists. The teacher tells him to follow instructions. The tone stays calm. The authority stays firm. The student lowers his voice. He does not want to cause trouble. He returns to his side. Soon, the students start to draw their own lines. Group A says Group B talks too loud. Group B says Group A acts stuck up. They blame each other for small things. They forget that the tape set the division, not differences between them. A girl from Group A accidentally drops a pencil. A boy from Group B picks it up to hand it back. A friend from Group A pulls the pencil away and whispers that they do not need help from the other side. The boy looks down at his shoes. He does not try to help again. The teacher watches how fast the behavior changes. A line on the floor controls more than movement. It controls thought. It controls the way students judge each other. It changes who they feel deserves kindness. The tape did not create real groups, but it created real consequences. During recess, the groups separate on their own. Group A claims the best area near the benches. Group B gathers near the fence. A soccer ball rolls into Group A's zone. A Group B student asks for it back. A Group A student kicks it hard in the opposite direction. He says they need to earn it. The word earn echoes. It sounds like a rule, but no one ever set that rule. Small inequalities become excuses for bigger ones. The students protect their side without questioning why it matters. In another experiment, adults experience a similar test. A researcher divides them by the flip of a coin. Heads belongs to the red group. Tails belongs to the blue group. The groups do not compete. They have no history. Their difference is imaginary. Yet when the adults must award bonus money to strangers, They choose members of their own group. They assume their group deserves more. They do not think of it as bias. They think of it as fairness. The mind searches for patterns even where none exist. A label becomes truth. A color becomes destiny. A piece of tape becomes a border that defines who we trust. Back in the classroom, the tension reaches a point where one student steps over the line. He wants to talk to a friend. Someone from Group A calls him a traitor. Someone from Group B tells him to come back. The moment shows how strong the imaginary rule has become. People care more about the group than the reason the group exists. The teacher finally gathers the students. He tells them to stand in the center. He asks what made one side better than the other. They look at the tape. They look at each other. They realize the answer. Nothing made one side better. Nothing made one student more deserving of praise or more deserving of blame. They remove the tape together. They roll it up. The floor looks the same as before. The line vanishes, but the memory of how they behaved remains. They remember how fast trust became suspicion. They remember how quickly kindness shrank when a single arbitrary division told them to separate. The world outside works the same way. Lines appear on maps. Labels appear in daily language. Some people stand on one side. Others stand on the opposite. The divisions look official. They look necessary. They look ancient. But often they began with a simple mark and a rule that no one challenged. A teacher walks into a room and tells the students something they do not expect. He says there will be no rules for the rest of the day. No assigned seats. No asking permission. No waiting for instructions. They can share supplies or keep them. They can work together or sit alone. They can lead or follow. They look at him as if he has given them a new world. The students glance at each other. They try to understand what freedom means inside a classroom where every move once needed approval. At first, they cheer. They run to the places they always wanted to sit. They grab the markers they like most. They talk loud. They laugh. They stretch into space that did not belong to them before. It feels exciting. The teacher stands back. He does not step in. He observes how they use their new power. A girl finds a stack of colored paper. She takes more than she needs. She hugs the pile like treasure. Her friend asks for one sheet. She says no. She says she got there first. The friend argues, but the girl holds tight. Freedom has turned into greed in the first minute. Across the room, a boy moves the chairs to make a fort. Others join him. They want in. Soon the fort fills. They close the gaps and declare it a private space. A younger student asks to enter. The group says he cannot come inside because he did not help build it. He stands outside and watches them laugh inside the wall of chairs. He looks down at the floor and kicks it lightly. The noise rises. Several small conflicts begin. Students accuse each other of stealing supplies. They grab items back. They raise their voices. No one knows who is wrong or right. The teacher stays calm. He watches the chaos form its own shape. Then something interesting happens. A few students get tired of the fighting. They try to talk through the problems. One suggests that the paper should be shared. Another says they can take turns using the markers if someone organizes them. They speak with more thought. They want order, but not the kind that comes from authority. They want fairness. It does not work right away. The girl with the paper refuses to give up her stack. The students with the fort refuse to open space for others. But the conversation continues. More students join the discussion. They form a circle near the center of the room. They talk about how to divide resources. They talk about how to stop arguments. They talk about respect. The teacher listens. He still does not take control. One child suggests a system. They will choose someone to help solve problems as they appear. Not a permanent leader, a helper, a mediator. The group agrees. They look around for a person they trust. They pick a boy who was quiet during the chaos. He did not grab items. He did not yell. He nods slowly and says he will try. The new helper approaches the girl with the pile of paper. He kneels to sit at her level. He asks her why she wants all the sheets. She says she likes the colors and she found them first. He acknowledges that. He says he understands wanting something before anyone else. Then he asks if she can allow others to make something too. He asks if she wants to be the only one who gets to draw. She looks down at the paper. She pauses. She hands him a few sheets. It is not enough for the whole class, but it is a start. The helper then talks to the group inside the fort. He tells them the younger student wants to join. They argue that he did nothing to build it. He suggests a trade. The younger student will bring crayons to decorate the fort. They think about this. They decide to let him climb through the gap between two chairs. He smiles when they welcome him. Fairness begins to take root. Problems do not disappear. New ones show up. Two students want the same pair of scissors. Another says people talk too loud. A group wants music while they work. Some still try to keep more than they need. The helper listens to each complaint. He talks through options. He tries to make sure everyone gets something, even if it's not everything. The teacher sees a skill forming, not the skill of reading or math, a skill that builds social life. Cooperation. Children do not come into the world knowing how to share. They learn through practice. They learn by failing first. When the teacher gave them freedom, they used it to grab and protect. They wanted fairness, but only for themselves. Later, they learned that fairness means thinking about others too. They learned that rules do not exist only to limit. Rules exist to help people live together. Some students notice the helper's job looks tiring. They offer to take turns. They build a rotation. Each new helper brings a different style. One uses humor to calm the room. Another uses quiet reminders. The group tests out each method. They find what works. Two boys start playing a game with blocks. They stack them high. Another boy walks over and asks to play. They say no. They want the tower to stay tall, and they fear he might knock it over. The helper arrives again. He asks the two boys what they fear. They say they worked hard, and they do not want to lose. He suggests a plan. The boy who wants to join will help build a wall around the tower. That way, their work stays safe and he becomes part of it. They agree. 3 people now laugh where 2 once guarded their space. Every decision teaches something. The students discover that sharing does not erase enjoyment. It grows it. They realize that hoarding things does not feel as good as they expected. It feels lonely. It creates tension. Cooperation brings relief. It builds connection. The teacher steps in only once. He asks them a question. He asks if they want to keep the system they created. Most hands rise. They prefer the rules they helped build to the freedom that left them fighting. They wrote fairness into the room by themselves. They practiced empathy. They learned how to solve conflict without giving up their own needs. They learned that leadership can move from person to person. They learned that equality takes work. A group of college students volunteers for a study. They expect a simple assignment, maybe a survey, maybe a task with numbers. Instead, the researcher shows them a basement hallway that has been turned into a fake jail. The walls look plain, the lighting harsh. The air feels still. The students receive roles by chance. Half become guards, half become prisoners. The guards get uniforms. Dark sunglasses hide their eyes. The sunglasses do more than block light. They block emotion. They block humanity. The guards also receive batons. They are not allowed to hit anyone, but the objects hold power anyway. The guards start to walk with straighter shoulders. The prisoners get plain smocks. They take off their clothes. They stand in line as each receives a number. Their names disappear behind digits. The numbers are pinned to their clothing. They no longer feel like regular students. They feel like strangers to themselves. The first hours move slow. The guards read the rules out loud. The prisoners listen. They agree to follow every instruction. Nothing serious has happened yet. Everyone smiles at the absurdity. They all know this is pretend. Pretend does not last. A guard raises his voice while giving directions. He says the prisoners must walk with their hands behind their backs. He tells them not to make eye contact. The mask of the role begins to shape him. He does not ask the researcher if this is allowed. He assumes that as a guard, he must control the room. A prisoner laughs. He jokes that the guard sounds like he is acting in a movie. The guard does not like the disrespect. He orders the prisoner to do push-ups. The prisoner feels embarrassed but obeys. He does not want trouble. Soon, the guarding becomes a performance. The guards want to be taken seriously. They want cooperation. They want authority to feel real. They take pride in the uniform. They start to stand closer together, as if they share one mind. The prisoners grow restless. They complain about the lack of comfort. They do not like the food. They do not like the stripped-down clothing. They do not like the constant orders. A group of prisoners decides to resist. They block the door with their beds. They think the guards cannot force them to obey. The guards respond fast. They bang on the doors. They yell. They call for backup. They feel angry. The resistance makes them feel the need to prove dominance. They put the ringleaders into solitary confinement, a small closet that barely fits a body. They give them no chance to argue. The prisoners who did nothing wrong watch. They feel fear move through their bodies. They lower their heads when a guard walks by. They learn that silence is safer than protest. The guards start to punish small mistakes. They make prisoners stand still for long periods. They make them repeat push-ups until muscles shake. They call them by their numbers. They do not use names. Each rule reinforces the idea that prisoners hold less worth. A prisoner breaks down and cries. He asks to leave. The researcher hesitates. He tries to keep the experiment going. The guard near them folds his arms. He waits for the prisoner to calm down. The prisoner does not calm down. He begs. He feels trapped. His voice cracks from strain. He no longer sounds like someone acting. Reality has blurred. The guards begin to help each other stay strict. They do not want to look weak. They joke about the prisoner's frustration. The jokes make it easier to ignore suffering. It feels normal to enforce rules for the sake of control. A prisoner lies awake at night. The lighting stays on. He hears guards walking the hall. He hears whispers of punishment. He wishes for his life outside, but he feels stuck in this place because the role says he must stay. Fear replaces logic. On the third day, the guards wake the prisoners early. They shout for roll call. The prisoners stumble out of their beds. They line up. They try to avoid attention. A guard tells them to sing to prove they are awake. They sing. Their voices waver. They want the morning to end. Some guards volunteer for extra shifts. They say they want to keep order. They stop seeing the prisoners as peers. They treat them as a group that needs force to behave. They do not question their actions because the uniform answers for them. One guard goes further than the others. He uses humiliation as a tool. He forces prisoners to clean the bathrooms with their bare hands. The researcher watches and feels unsure. He did not ask for this, but he does not intervene yet. The experiment continues. The prisoners talk quietly among themselves. They want to fight back again, but they fear the consequences. They think the guards might push the punishments even harder. They accept small abuses to avoid larger ones. The spirit in the room shrinks. A soft-spoken prisoner tries to talk to a guard in a calm voice. He explains that they are all students, and this is just a study. The guard stares behind his sunglasses. His silence sends a message. He cannot drop the role. If he does, he might lose control. The fake walls of the prison hold real power. The guards and prisoners become their costumes. The basement turns into a place where pressure changes identity. Good people follow harmful instructions because the role tells them the harm is justified. The researcher ends the study earlier than planned. He sees the danger growing. He sees how the guards step deeper into power. He sees how the prisoners break apart inside. When they remove the uniforms, they look at each other with confusion. They try to understand what they became. None of them predicted how fast a costume could turn into character. A volunteer sits in a straight-back chair. A panel full of switches rests under his hands. Each switch carries a number. The numbers rise in sharp steps. A researcher in a white coat explains the task. The volunteer will read questions to a learner in the next room. Each wrong answer means he must press the next switch. He hears the learner through a speaker. He cannot see him. The first wrong answer comes fast. The researcher tells the volunteer to press the lowest switch. The volunteer does what he is told. A small buzz travels through the wall. The learner cries out. The sound catches the volunteer off guard. He did not expect such a reaction from a simple mistake. He looks at the researcher. The researcher nods. He says the study requires it. The volunteer reads the next question. Another wrong answer. He presses a slightly higher switch. The learner yells louder. A volunteer's fingers hover over the panel. His voice hesitates while he reads the next line. He feels a tug in his chest. The empathy rises, but the authority stands close. The researcher repeats the same sentence each time the volunteer questions his role. The experiment requires that you continue. The words become a tool. The tone stays calm. Calm authority holds weight. The volunteer decides to trust the one who seems to know more. The shocks grow stronger. The learner cries that his heart hurts. The volunteer freezes. He asks if they should stop. The researcher says the discomfort is part of the process. He places responsibility on the experiment itself. The volunteer relies on that logic to quiet the voice inside begging him to stop. He presses another switch. His hand shakes, not from doubt alone, but from the strange split between who he thinks he is and what he is doing. He sees himself as a caring person, yet his actions say something else. His self-image drifts one way. His obedience drifts the other. He tries not to look at the numbers anymore. The learner screams. Then he bangs on the wall. Then he goes silent. Silence makes fear sharp. The volunteer turns and asks if the learner is hurt. The researcher gives another scripted line. No permanent damage. Please continue. The volunteer believes him because doubt feels dangerous. If he accepts that the learner might be in real pain, then he must face his own part in causing it. He presses the button to deliver another shock into a quiet room. The speaker stays silent. The volunteer's throat tightens. He swallows a lump he cannot ignore. He wipes his palms against his pants. He tries to breathe slow. He tries to believe the researcher over his own senses. Many volunteers repeat this same pattern. They show signs of inner conflict. They laugh at uncomfortable moments. They tap their feet. They grip the chair. They wipe sweat from their skin. Their bodies expose the tension that their minds try to hide. Their conscience fights for control, but authority holds the advantage. Some volunteers try to shift blame as a shield. They say out loud that they are only following instructions. They say the researcher takes responsibility. They say the harm is not their fault. They reach for excuses that protect their idea of themselves as good. Excuses do not change the sound of the next scream. Other volunteers question the learner's pain. They say maybe he is exaggerating. Maybe he deserves punishment for wrong answers. They twist the logic so they can stay obedient without drowning in guilt. It is easier to believe harm is justified than to admit harm is happening. The lie supports obedience. A few volunteers refuse to continue. They push the chair back. They stand. They say that no experiment should require torture. They choose empathy over pressure. They leave the room shaking. The researcher notes their reaction. Not everyone bends the same way, but most volunteers stay seated. Most press the highest switch at least once. Later, when asked how they felt, volunteers say they hated every second. They say they wanted to help the learner. They say they feared what would happen if they disobeyed. They say they cared more about keeping order than stopping pain. They do not like what this reveals. The shock machine did not test memory or punishment. It tested the line between obedience and humanity. When a person with authority gives clear instructions, empathy must fight its hardest battle. The battle plays out inside the volunteer. One side wants to protect a suffering person. The other side wants to obey the rules. Sometimes the rule wins. One volunteer sits in the debrief room after the session ends. The researcher tells him the learner was not hurt. The shocks were fake. The loud cries came from a speaker. The learner sits right beside him, unharmed. The volunteer lets out a breath he did not know he held. He rubs his face. He does not feel relief. He feels shame. He asks why he did not stop sooner. The researcher tells him many others did the same thing. He does not feel better knowing he was part of the majority. The study shows something uncomfortable. People do not harm others because they enjoy it. They harm others when they believe a trusted authority is responsible. They press the button because someone tells them to. They want to avoid conflict more than they want to protect a stranger. The volunteer returns home. He tries to forget the way the speaker sounded. He tries to forget the moment he chose obedience over care. But he remembers his hand hovering over the switch. He remembers how fast fear of breaking the rules silenced compassion. The shock that split the self did not come from electricity. It came from the moment empathy lost its voice. Two strangers sit across from each other in simple chairs. They do not share a past. They do not know each other's names. They do not know professions, beliefs, or fears. The researcher gives them one instruction. They must look into each other's eyes and stay silent. No talking, no joking, no turning away. They must hold eye contact for several minutes. The task sounds easy. They think silence will feel safe. But once the timer starts, they learn how exposed this makes them. The first seconds feel awkward. They shift in their chairs. They clear their throats. They blink more than usual. Their bodies look for escape. Eye contact removes space to hide. There is no phone to check, no window to stare at, no small talk to fill gaps. The mind feels naked when only the eyes are allowed to speak. The stranger facing the woman notices the slight tremble of her eyelids. He thinks maybe she is nervous. That makes him feel nervous too. He wants to look away to break the tension, but the rule keeps him locked in place. He tries to steady his breathing so he does not look uneasy. The woman sees his attempt to stay calm. She feels sympathy. She softens her shoulders. She stops trying to be perfect. The moment feels lighter because she accepts the discomfort instead of fighting it. This small shift happens without words. Eye contact creates fast and deep communication. The brain reads tiny changes in muscle movement. It detects emotion before thought. It recognizes honesty and doubt without context. In normal conversation, people glance away often. They protect themselves from too much exposure. Here, they have nowhere to go. 30 seconds pass. They start to see each other as people, not strangers. They notice freckles, wrinkles, and the shape of a smile that almost appears. They wonder who the person sitting there might be outside this room. The silence continues. The woman's eyes fill with a small shine. He thinks she might cry. He does not know why. He worries he might be causing pain. His chest tightens. But she is not upset. She is overwhelmed by how rare this moment feels. She cannot remember the last time someone looked at her without distraction, without agenda, without rushing to speak. When the eyes stay steady, walls start to fall. He sees a mix of sadness and hope in her expression. None of it needs explanation. His own thoughts rise to the surface. He thinks about the masks he wears every day. He realizes eye contact forces truth to appear. It makes the inner life visible. He looks away for 1 second, then returns. The break feels like a breath of fear. He apologizes with his eyes. She accepts that apology without sound. They move past the slip because connection does not require perfection. At the 2-minute mark, their hearts beat faster, not from romance, but from recognition. They feel seen. They feel valued because another human is fully present. No multitasking, no checking the time, no waiting to talk. Presence itself becomes a form of care. The experiment surprises many participants. Some cry, some laugh, some feel shy. Some say they sense love for someone they have never spoken to. They do not mean relationship love. They mean the basic bond that forms when two humans respect each other's existence. The man sitting in the chair now sees how complex she is. Her eyes hold memories he will never know. He sees youth and exhaustion. He sees strength and uncertainty. The mix reminds him that every person in the world carries stories inside that cannot be measured from the outside. She sees him as more than posture and clothing. She sees his effort to look confident. She sees the worry that flickers when he fears judgment. She sees kindness in the way he returns the gaze rather than breaking it. Trust builds 1 second at a time. If a tear rolls down a cheek, the other does not laugh. They do not look away. They share the emotion. They learn empathy through silence. Another pair in a different session begins the task with crossed arms and tight jaws. They want to protect themselves. Eye contact stretches their comfort. After a minute, their arms drop, their shoulders relax. They stop trying to control the moment. They let vulnerability show. The guard they put up looks useless now. It blocks connection instead of building it. In real life, people avoid this level of openness. They look away to stay safe. They fear misreading something. They fear appearing weak. But when forced to look, they learn the opposite. Vulnerability does not make someone small, it makes connection possible. The two strangers in the chairs start to wonder about each other's lives. They imagine families, hopes, heartbreak, last good days and worst mornings. They see how wide the human experience is. Yet in this room, it touches in a single point between two pairs of eyes. Eye contact can feel like holding someone's truth with your hands. The timer ticks down to the final minute. Their breathing sinks without trying. Their eyes tell a story of two people meeting in a place where words cannot reach. They feel a quiet respect grow between them, not because of shared history, but because they shared attention. The researcher announces that the time is up. They do not speak at once. They sit still. They take a slow breath. They smile in a gentle way. They feel something shift inside. They do not know each other's names, but they know something more important. They know what the other looks like when they stop pretending they are fine. When they finally talk, their voices sound softer. Their questions sound more genuine. They thank each other for staying present. They walk away with the memory of being seen and understood by a stranger. The experiment ends with a simple lesson. Poise dissolves. Ego fades. Connection grows when two people stop looking away. A group of students enters a room for what they believe is a simple behavior study. They sit in chairs arranged in a loose circle. A researcher stands near the wall with a clipboard, ready to take notes. The setup looks ordinary. Nothing hints at what will shape their actions in the next hour. One student is chosen as the subject. He does not know he is the only one unaware of the real purpose. The rest of the group has instructions. They must encourage the subject to move toward a specific spot in the room. The rule is simple. When the subject steps closer to the target area, the group will clap and cheer. When he moves away, they will fall silent. They cannot speak any direct instructions. They guide him only through applause. The subject stands. He waits for direction. The researcher tells him to explore the room freely while the group observes. At first, he feels confused. He takes a single step to the right. Nothing happens. He takes 2 steps forward. Still nothing. He shrugs. He steps toward the corner nearest the target area. The group breaks into applause. He flinches. The sudden burst of approval feels strange but pleasant. He smiles. He thinks he earned the reaction. He steps forward again. More cheering. The sound reinforces the idea that he is doing something right. Without a spoken rule, his mind builds one. Moving toward applause must equal success. He continues until he reaches the target spot. The room erupts. People clap louder. Some laugh. He enjoys the praise. The applause stops when he steps too far. He tries a different direction. Silence returns. He steps back toward where the applause happened. The cheers come back. Reinforcement has begun to shape his decisions. He repeats the loop. His body adjusts based on the claps. His brain learns faster than he expected. The simple hunger for approval steers his feet. He starts to search for applause before he acts, like a compass scanning for north. The researcher asks him what pattern he sees. He says he is not sure yet. He thinks out loud. Maybe they clap when he looks confident. Maybe they like when he moves faster. He does not guess that the applause relates to location. The rule hides in plain sight. The test grows more complex. The group gets new orders. They must encourage a different behavior now. When the subject lifts his right arm, they will cheer. If he lifts his left arm, they will stay quiet. The subject raises his right arm by accident while thinking. The room explodes with clapping. He laughs. He thinks they must like that gesture. He tries another pose. Silence. He lifts his right arm again. The applause returns. He adjusts his posture to match the praise. He stops trying things that bring quiet. He chooses what the group rewards. His mind does not question why. The applause shapes his identity inside the room. At one point, he grows bold. He makes a silly dance move. The group stays silent because it does not match the order. He feels embarrassment wash over him. He lowers his head. He stops trying to be creative. He wants the safety of approval again. He raises his right arm. The claps come back. Relief follows. His behavior now depends on the group's reaction. The researcher watches how quickly control takes hold. He sees that the subject does not need instruction to crave applause. Praise alone becomes instruction. The subject has forgotten his freedom. He follows a path that others set. Another participant joins the experiment later. This time, the group must encourage slower movement. When the new subject walks too fast, silence greets him. When he moves with caution, the applause grows. He learns to take small steps. He begins to believe slow walking means better performance. He never asks why. Behavior bends toward approval again and again. A third subject comes in. The group rewards a small habit, a cheer every time she taps her fingers. Soon, she taps without thinking. The sound of fingertips against her leg becomes constant. When they stop clapping, her tapping slows. She waits. Silence feels like judgment. She taps again to win back support. Approval sculpts actions more effectively than command. Even outside experiments, this rule holds. Children seek smiles from parents. Workers adjust their style after a boss nods. Friends mimic what earns laughter. People post photos and wait for digital hearts. The applause may change shape, but the mind responds the same way. One day, the original subject returns to observe the experiment. He sits in the group now. He claps for someone else. He sees the same pattern unfold. He watches another person learn the invisible rule. He realizes how easily he played the role earlier. He wonders why he wanted approval so much. The researcher does not shame him. He explains that the desire to belong is strong in everyone. The applause does not only reward behavior, it protects connection. The subject feared silence, not because it hurt his feelings, but because it isolated him. Approval told him he was part of the group. Silence felt like exile. The subject remains quiet for a few moments. He thinks about times in his life when he changed himself to keep peace. He thinks about moments he laughed at a joke he disliked. He thinks about clothes he chose to fit in. He understands now that applause does not always sound like clapping. Sometimes it shows up as acceptance. Sometimes it looks like approval from strangers. And without noticing, he adjusted his behavior to keep it. The study ends. The subjects step out of the room. They walk through the hallway, returning to their lives. But they carry a new awareness. Applause has influence. The need for approval can steer choices even when the logic behind them disappears. Sometimes the reward replaces the reason. Inside that experiment room, the claps acted like strings. They guided movement. They shaped decision. They made a simple human desire, the wish to be liked, into a tool that could control the mind. A group of people enters a conference room for what they believe is a workshop on teamwork. They take seats around a long table. A facilitator greets them with a warm voice and hands out name tags. The tags look plain, white stickers with thick black lettering. But the people do not see the small trick behind them. The facilitator has not written their names. Each sticker holds a label instead. Some read leader, some read helper, some read slow, others say trouble. No one questions the accuracy yet because they assume someone has a reason for giving these roles. They trust the exercise has meaning. The labels stick to shirts like quiet commands. At first, the group does not change much. They speak politely and exchange small talk. Then the facilitator gives them a challenge. They must build a tower out of paper and tape. They must do it fast. They must work together. A woman with the leader tag immediately stands. She points to the paper and gives orders. She speaks without waiting for approval. The others listen. They assume leadership must belong to her because the name tag says so. Her confidence grows with each instruction. A man looks at his own tag, slow. He hesitates to join. He wants to help, but the label feels like a warning. He fears that if he moves wrong or speaks wrong, others will think the tag fits him. He steps back, arms crossed, pretending to observe. He believes he should stay out of the way. The group does not invite him into the task. A young participant with the trouble tag tries to share an idea. Before he finishes, someone cuts him off. They say the plan does not make sense. The facilitator does not correct the rudeness. Trouble lowers his voice. He worries the label might already define him. The tower grows taller. The participants, with the helper tags, cut tape and pass paper. They never suggest strategies. They take the safe role. They assume helpers should not decide things. They accept a smaller voice so they do not disrupt the system the labels created. One woman keeps glancing at her sticker marked, quiet. She wants to speak, but keeps her mouth shut. Her silence becomes a self-fulfilling rule. The label directs her behavior more than any actual shyness inside her. The group fails the first attempt. The tower collapses. The facilitator gives no feedback. He asks them to try again. They rebuild in the same pattern because the labels keep the roles fixed. The leader takes charge again. The trouble person gets ignored again. The slow person keeps his hands to himself. The quiet person stays silent. No one notices the unfairness because the labels look simple. They look harmless. They look like truth. But the paper cages hold power. After several rounds, the facilitator switches the labels. The woman who once led now receives a sticker that says follower. She looks confused. She does not know how to act without authority. Her voice loses speed. Her confidence sinks. She asks others what they think instead of deciding herself. The man with the slow label now receives a leader sticker. He straightens his back. He takes a breath that feels bigger than before. He looks at the paper on the table with new purpose. He gives instructions. The same people who ignored him moments ago now follow his guidance without question. The shift exposes something clear. The labels shape behavior more than personality. The man with the trouble tag now wears one that says creative. People encourage his ideas. They ask questions. They treat him like a person worth listening to. He talks more. His face brightens. He feels respected. His thoughts help the tower stand taller this time. The woman with the quiet tag becomes expert. People turn to her for decisions. She raises her head. She shares a plan that improves the base of the structure. Her contribution brings success. She always had the idea. The group only heard it when the sticker allowed them to. They complete the task with time to spare. The facilitator asks them what changed. They stare down at the table. They know the answer. The people stayed the same. The skills stayed the same. The only difference was the labels that told them how much space they could take up. Labels are suggestions at first. Then they become expectations. Then they become limits. The facilitator explains the point of the exercise. He says people often treat labels like truth. When someone gets called smart, others give them room to lead. When someone gets called difficult, others expect problems before they appear. When someone gets called shy, people forget to listen. A sticker can turn into a fate. The participants remove their tags, but the lesson stays on their clothes like invisible ink. They think about the names society hands out: gifted, special, normal, at risk, lazy, hard worker, problem child. People react to these words long before they understand the person wearing them. One participant remembers being called messy as a child. She wonders if that label shaped her habits. Another recalls how teachers assumed he could not learn because of one test score. He remembers shrinking to fit their low expectations. The labels from the experiment peel off easily, but many labels in life do not. The facilitator does not blame the group for believing the stickers. He says humans rely on clues to make sense of others quickly. A label becomes a shortcut, but shortcuts often erase truth. They reduce a whole person to one word. In the end, the paper name tags turned into cages. The group built behavior around the categories they saw. They rewarded authority where none was earned. They ignored potential where it lived. They gave power to a sticker instead of the self beneath it. A group of volunteers sits in a row of chairs facing a board. On the board, 3 simple lines appear. One line on the left stands alone. 3 comparison lines on the right vary in length. The question is easy. Which line on the right matches the one on the left? Anyone with average eyesight can see the correct answer at first glance. One person in the group believes he is part of a vision study. He does not know the truth. Everyone else in the row is an actor following a script. They will give wrong answers on purpose. The researcher wants to see what the lone volunteer does when the majority chooses an obvious mistake. The first trial begins. The correct answer is line B. The actors all say line B. The volunteer agrees. He feels relaxed. The task seems straightforward. The second trial also brings agreement. Everyone gives the correct answer again. The volunteer trusts that the group sees the world the same way he does. Then the shift comes quietly. On the third trial, the correct answer still looks easy. The matching line is line C this time. The volunteer waits for the group to speak first. The first actor points to line A. The second actor says line A. A third repeats the same wrong answer. The volunteer looks confused. He stares at the lines again. They do not change. His eyes tell him one thing. The group says another. He swallows and checks the researcher's expression. The researcher acts neutral and continues recording notes. The volunteer feels pressure from silence. He does not want to stand out. When his turn arrives, his voice shakes. He says line A, even though he sees the mistake. The wrong answer becomes the safe answer. More trials follow. The actors stay consistent. They choose lines that look obviously incorrect. The volunteer tries at first to trust his eyesight. He picks the right answer once or twice. But the group reaction shifts. They glance at him. They raise eyebrows. They look annoyed. The discomfort grows. He learns quickly that agreeing feels easier than questioning. Each vote becomes a small performance. He waits for cues. He checks faces for approval. He wants to blend in. Being right no longer matters as much as being accepted. He does not notice this change at the moment it happens. He only feels it in the tightness of his chest when he thinks about speaking a different answer. He abandons his own perception to protect belonging. Not every volunteer conforms the same way. Some laugh when the majority says the wrong answer. They resist. They choose the correct line with confidence. But even those who resist feel the room push against them. Their faces show stress. Their hands grip the chair. They keep their voice firm, but it costs effort. One volunteer tries to compromise. He squints at the board for longer than necessary. He acts as if doubt exists. He hopes someone will correct themselves. They do not. When his turn comes, he matches the group. Relief washes through him like a reward. The test looks simple. The lesson is not. When asked later why they followed the wrong answer, many volunteers offer the same explanation. They say they did not want conflict. They say they worried they might appear foolish. Some say they thought the group might know something they did not. They chose conformity over accuracy. Conformity felt safer. The loudest wrong answer silenced the quiet truth inside their minds. The study does not rely on force. There are no punishments for dissent. There are no rewards for obedience. There is only the social weight of being different. That weight bends behavior more than threats ever could. The volunteer does not fear danger. He fears judgment. One person changed everything for a moment. A single actor gave the right answer while the rest gave the wrong one. The volunteer immediately found his confidence again. He trusted his eyes. He picked the correct line without hesitation. Just one ally helped truth speak louder. When that ally returned to the script, the volunteer slipped back into silence. Social pressure guides decisions in quiet ways. People check the group before they check themselves. They wait to see which truth is acceptable. They look for permission to believe what they see. When permission disappears, so does their certainty. Imagine a workplace meeting. Everyone praises a flawed idea. No one wants to be the first to disagree. The idea moves forward, not because it works, but because silence protected it. Imagine a classroom where students avoid answering because the confident voices in the room choose wrong answers first. Fear of standing alone decides what is said. The ballot of conformity shows up in votes, boardrooms, friendships, and families. People learn to hide the truth they know, when the cost of speaking looks too high. Back in the experiment room, the volunteer leaves the study with a puzzled look. He laughs when told the others were actors. He shakes his head. He says he should have trusted his eyes. He promises he would choose differently next time. He means it, but he also knows something changed inside him. He learned that the need to belong can defeat logic before he even notices the battle has begun. A volunteer walks into a quiet room. 3 other people sit at a table. They look relaxed. They talk in low voices. The volunteer assumes they are just other participants waiting to begin. He does not know they are actors. He does not know the experiment is already happening. The researcher enters and explains the task. Each person must describe a series of images shown on a screen. The images do not show clear objects. They are ink blots, random shapes, like clouds without meaning. There are no correct answers. The researcher says the exercise will study how people perceive patterns. The volunteer nods. He feels comfortable. A test without wrong answers sounds easy. The first ink blot appears. It looks like a shapeless smudge. The actor on the left says it looks like a dog running. The second says it looks like a mountain. The third says it looks like a boat. The volunteer picks one too. He says cloud. The group accepts his answer without reaction. Then the real test begins. The second ink blot shows up. It looks nothing like a dog or mountain or boat. But the actors all insist it looks like the exact same thing as the first. They say dog without hesitation. They agree with perfect confidence. The volunteer stares in confusion. He sees a shape that looks like a tree, but now he questions himself. If everyone else sees the same image again, maybe he missed something. Maybe the shapes repeat. He hesitates. When his turn comes, he slowly says dog. He does not believe it, but the word leaves his mouth anyway. The third image appears. It looks different from the first 2. The actors say dog once again. The volunteer scratches his head. He feels the urge to speak his own thought, but he looks around the table. Everyone looks certain. Their certainty pushes down his voice. He goes along with them again. The room without right answers turns his knowledge into doubt. The fourth image appears. It shows a sharp angle. It looks like lightning. The actors continue with the same response. Dog. The volunteer stares at the screen. A voice inside him says this makes no sense. But another voice says, do not stand out. Do not challenge the group. Fitting in feels more comfortable than thinking alone. He says dog. He lets go of his own perception to follow the crowd. The researcher watches this unfold. The volunteer believes he is making decisions based on evidence. He does not notice how the group shapes every word he says. He does not notice the moment his confidence sinks into the floor. The next slide appears. It shows a swirling shape that could be smoke. The first actor hesitates before answering. He frowns. He says, I'm not sure. The second and third actors do the same. Now the volunteer sees the space open where truth can enter again. He decides to give a different answer. He says, I think it looks like smoke. The actors pause. Then they agree, yes, smoke. They treat it like a normal answer. The volunteer breathes out. He feels relief. He believes he helped the group discover the right idea. He does not realize that they controlled the situation all along. The test continues. More images, more confusion, more moments where the actors go against logic. They do not show any doubt when they choose wrong answers. The volunteer follows them each time, even though his eyes show him something different. The researcher does not need harsh orders or loud authority. Silence does the job. Neutral faces steer the volunteer's choices without a single command. He changes his behavior to protect acceptance. This experiment shows how knowledge alone does not guarantee power. The volunteer knows the images do not match, but he stays quiet. He stays small. He keeps his answers aligned with the group. because isolation scares him more than being wrong. He does not want to risk judgment. He does not want to appear foolish. He would rather lie to himself than sit alone with the truth. Imagine a workplace where someone points out a mistake in a plan. If everyone else praises the plan, the person stays silent. Knowledge becomes isolation. Silence becomes comfort. Imagine a classroom where a student knows the correct answer, but the group picks another. The student changes their response to fit in. Accuracy becomes secondary. Belonging becomes first. The Inkblot study places a spotlight on something people feel every day. We do not need right answers to feel pressure. The absence of correctness can make conformity even stronger. When judgment is unclear, the group becomes the measure of truth. Later, the researcher explains the trick. He shows the volunteer how the group steered the conversation the entire time. The volunteer laughs with embarrassment. He rubs his hands together. He tries to explain why he chose the same answer as everyone else. He says the images looked unclear. He says maybe there was a pattern he could not see, but deep down, he knows the reason. He followed the group to protect himself from standing out. He let conformity guide his choices in a room without right answers. A student sits at a desk in a small room. A researcher places a wallet in front of him. The wallet looks worn. Inside, there is cash and a few folded papers. The student learns that someone dropped the wallet earlier. He does not know who. He does not know if there are cameras watching. He does not receive instructions about what to do next. He flips open the wallet. The cash catches his eye. He counts the bills. It is not a large amount, but it is enough to matter to someone. The student pauses. He looks at the door as if expecting someone to walk in. No one enters. He takes a breath and returns the money to the pocket. The researcher observes quietly from another room. This simple setup repeats many times. Each participant faces the same choice. They can keep the money, or they can hand the wallet to the lost and found box near the exit. They receive no reward for honesty. No one promises thanks. Their decision earns no applause. It exists in silence. The experiment measures generosity without witnesses. When people believe no one is watching, something surprising happens. Many choose to return the wallet. They do not expect praise. They feel a sense of duty, even when anonymity protects them from consequence. They want to do the right thing for its own sake. But not everyone does. Some remove a few bills before they return the wallet, thinking a small loss will go unnoticed. Others take everything and leave the empty wallet behind. They justify their actions with quiet thoughts. They say the owner will move on. They say they need the money more. One participant looks at the cash for a long time. He taps his finger on the table. He places the wallet down, then picks it up again. He closes his eyes for a moment. When he opens them, he separates the money and folds it into his own pocket. He tells himself life is hard, and this is a break he deserves. He places the wallet in the lost and found tray near the door and walks out fast. He does not look back. Another participant responds differently. She reads through the folded papers. She finds a photo of a child and an address written on the back. The wallet does not feel like a random object anymore. It feels connected to someone's life. She brings it straight to the office, explaining where she found it. She leaves feeling relieved. She never learns the owner's name. She never receives thanks. The researcher notes each decision. He sees how people define fairness for themselves. Without a scorekeeper, they reveal their internal measure of generosity. In another version of the experiment, the wallet contains a note that says, "If found, please return. This money is needed for my medicine." The words change outcomes sharply. The story inside the wallet makes needs visible. Generosity grows when people feel connected to the stranger who lost something. One participant reads the note twice. His face tightens. He does not hesitate. He pushes the wallet back together and holds it firmly. He delivers it with urgency. A small piece of empathy changed his choice. The invisible hand in his wallet was compassion. Some participants place even more money inside. They believe the lost money creates hardship. They want to soften the loss. They want the stranger to feel lucky rather than defeated. They give extra quietly. They tell no one. The researcher concludes that generosity often hides from view. People may not want credit for caring. They want to help without the noise of attention. Another part of the experiment involves a donation box. It sits beside a coffee machine in a common room. A sign says the donations support the cleaning staff. There is no list of donors, no cameras, no public record. People drop in coins. Some slip in folded bills. The box fills over time. Then the researcher adds a transparent window to the same box. Now, anyone passing by can see how much money is inside. And the pattern changes. When the box looks full, people give less. When the box looks empty, they give more. People react to the visible standard. They respond not only to need, but to how their actions appear in the context of others' actions. Even without names attached, a visible box creates subtle judgment. A hidden box creates independence. The experiment shows something clear. Generosity blooms when no one is keeping score. People give more freely when they do not feel observed or compared. They give because it feels right to restore balance or save someone from harm. They give because they imagine themselves as the person who lost the wallet. They picture the fear of being without money they need. A man who keeps the wallet leaves the building slower than he entered. His body language shows weight. He presses the bills into his fist, as if trying to convince himself he made the right choice. But his thoughts circle. He knows this act does not match the person he wants to be. A woman who returns the wallet walks away without a smile. Her act does not shine like a movie moment. It feels simple, private. She may even forget the details later. Yet the generosity stays real, even without witnesses. Some behaviors depend on being seen. Some grow stronger when hidden. People like to believe they act morally only when others watch. But the quiet moments, where no one cheers and no one judges, reveal what values remain when everything else falls away. A student sits in a hallway outside a testing room. She expects a routine assessment about memory and attention. The researcher smiles and hands her a form. The questions look normal at first. They ask about habits and sleep. Then the questions shift. They ask how often she feels she fails tasks. They ask if she believes she is clumsy or careless. She thinks the survey seems odd, but she answers honestly. Later, she enters the testing room. A researcher greets her and hands over her survey results. He tells her the test shows she has low coordination and poor focus. He says she will need extra support during the tasks. His voice uses calm confidence. His words reshape how she sees herself before she even holds the pencil. Nothing in the results is true. The survey has no scoring system. The researcher gives the same negative feedback to half the volunteers. The mirror begins to lie. The student starts the test. She moves slowly. She hesitates as she follows instructions. She worries she will reveal the flaws the researcher already expects from her. A simple task, placing shapes into matching cutouts, suddenly feels difficult. Her hands feel heavy. She takes extra time to double-check. She appears to struggle not because she lacks ability, but because she believes she does. The observer watches quietly. He notes that people often act in ways that match the labels given to them. In another room, another volunteer receives opposite feedback. The researcher tells him he scored near the top, that he has excellent coordination and strong focus. He smiles. He sits straighter. When he begins the same task, he moves with ease. He reacts faster and makes fewer errors. He trusts his instincts. He believes the label. The mirror shows a different lie, a pleasant one, but still a lie. Both students entered the study with similar skills. The labels changed performance more than talent ever could. A young man joins next. He reads his false evaluation aloud. It tells him he is disorganized. He frowns. He remembers times he lost small items. Those memories rise to the surface quickly when somebody suggests a flaw. He thinks the description must be true. He starts to speak less. His shoulders sink. He expects to fail before he begins. Self-image bends easily under someone else's expectations. The study continues with more volunteers. Half hear praise, half hear criticism. The tasks never change. The materials always stay the same. Only the labels differ. Yet the outcomes drift apart like two branches on the same tree. People do not perform based purely on ability. They perform based on belief. The researcher sees how fast insecurity can grow. A girl who believed she was capable an hour ago now acts as if she has no control. She apologizes each time she makes a tiny mistake. She says sorry even when nothing is wrong. The fake label becomes a shadow that follows her every move. Some volunteers question the results. They ask if the evaluation could be wrong. But the researcher shakes his head gently. His calm authority strengthens the false impression. Doubt disappears. They accept the critique as fact. A student who received high praise shows another side of the experiment. He takes risks. He solves puzzles quicker. Yet confidence makes him careless sometimes. The researcher offers feedback that he did well, but could improve accuracy. He apologizes and tries harder. Confidence with guidance becomes growth. Confidence without guidance becomes overreach. Belief pushes behavior in opposite directions. Ordinary glasses turn into a filter that changes how people see themselves. The mirror in the study is not made of glass. It grows from a sentence spoken by a stranger in a lab coat. It tells people who they are. They trust it even when it contradicts their own experience. People often learn what to expect from themselves by listening to what others expect of them. Praise becomes a permission slip for performance. Criticism becomes a prediction waiting to be fulfilled. The students live inside the expectations placed on them. Outside the lab, the world uses many mirrors: report cards, job titles, compliments, teasing nicknames. Some mirrors reflect support. Others reflect doubt. A child called smart may push through harder challenges. A child called trouble may stop trying to prove otherwise. The label starts as a judgment. Then behavior grows around it. One volunteer finishes the last task and leaves the room. She believes she did poorly. She feels discouraged. She asks the researcher if she may keep the evaluation sheet. She wants to improve. He takes the paper and quietly shares the truth. The critique was false. She looks up, her eyes wide. She asks why she believed it so fast. She thinks about moments in her life when someone told her she lacked ability. She wonders if those labels had changed her path. She realizes how easily she adjusted herself to match someone else's view. A researcher watches reactions like hers often. Some volunteers laugh because they feel relief. Others feel upset because the lie worked so well. A few grow thoughtful and quiet. They begin to reconsider which parts of their self-image came from real experiences and which came from mirrors built by others. The experiment shows how fragile confidence can be. It shows how quickly doubt can spread. A simple sentence creates a story, and the person becomes the character in it. They act the part even when the script makes no sense. The mirror lied, and people believed the reflection without question. A man stands on a busy street. His voice rises above the traffic. He argues with another person. Their conflict draws attention because loud emotion in public always pulls eyes. People slow their steps. They pause near storefronts. They stare. They do not plan to get involved, but they cannot stop watching. The argument grows louder. The man shoves the other person. The crowd reacts with soft gasps. No one steps forward. They wait to see what happens next. Curiosity holds them in place. Someone pulls out a phone and begins to record. Others shift for a better view. The researcher who planned this scene watches from a distance. The confrontation is staged. The actors follow a script to test how crowds react to public conflict. The study does not focus on aggression. It focuses on attention. It asks why people watch harm without helping, and why looking can become a form of participation. The actors continue the scene. The man yells again and grabs the other person's shirt. The victim calls for help. The words reach the crowd, but the crowd stays rooted. Some people whisper. They speak about whether the conflict is serious. They wait for someone with authority to appear. They wait for someone else to care first. A woman in the front row grips her bag. She looks afraid, but she does not move. Fear holds her in place, but so does the pull of the scene. She feels responsible and powerless at the same time. One person takes a short step forward. He looks ready to intervene, but after checking the faces around him, he freezes. The lack of action from others tells him to return to stillness. His conscience loses to group behavior. Curiosity becomes complicity. The researcher calls a stop. The actors relax. The crowd disperses. The people who watched leave with awkward expressions. Some shake their heads. Some laugh nervously. They pretend the moment did not matter. But the researcher notes how easy it was for them to become silent supporters of harm through attention alone. In another location, a different version of the experiment takes place. This time, the confrontation involves a person on the ground. A woman stands over him and shouts insults. She kicks at the air near his legs. People gather fast. Their eyes lock onto the scene. The crowd grows dense as more people arrive. A teenager at the front records the entire moment on his phone. He zooms in when the woman leans in close to shout. He does not consider calling for help. His camera work becomes his main role. Others watch his screen, even though they can see the struggle with their own eyes. The crowd watches because watching feels like participation. Watching tells them they are part of something interesting. They want to witness the outcome, not shape it. One bystander lifts her phone too. She wants proof of what she saw. She wants to share it later. She does not realize this urge changes her position. She becomes a recorder instead of a responder. Her silence now holds real weight. Someone in the back says, "Shouldn't we help?" His voice is low. The question floats but does not land. No one answers. Silence allows the scene to continue. The victim actor lets out a dramatic cry of pain. A few people look uncomfortable but still do nothing. A man mutters that he does not want to get hurt. A woman says the police will show up soon. They convince themselves that help will come from somewhere else. The experiment ends after several minutes. The actors stand and explain the situation. Some bystanders look relieved. Others defend their inaction. They say they expected others to step in. They say they did not know what was real. They say they were only watching. Only watching shapes what happens. The researcher gathers notes. He sees how people shift their roles faster than they shift their feet. They begin as innocent observers. Without noticing, they become part of the event, not by action, but by absence of action. A third version of the study involves no violence. Instead, a person falls from a bike. He lies on the ground and asks for help. People walk by at first, then stop to look. They comment on his condition. They point. One person records. His accident becomes entertainment for strangers who do not think to kneel beside him. The man calls out again. His voice shakes with fear. The crowd stares. They assume someone else will kneel. They assume someone with more knowledge or courage will take the lead. They wait. Each second of waiting teaches the same painful lesson. Watching without acting supports the outcome, even when the outcome hurts. Social psychologists call this diffusion of responsibility. A crowd divides the duty of care until no one owns it. Curiosity pushes them close, but responsibility pushes them back. That tension keeps them stuck between caring and avoiding effort. The researcher offers no blame. He understands how normal this behavior is. People want to understand what they see before they risk doing something. They fear looking foolish. They fear escalating something they do not understand. They fear the judgment of others more than the suffering in front of them. But these fears turn attention into approval. The person being harmed sees a circle of silent faces and assumes the worst. The crowd agrees. The scene on the street becomes a stage. The actors perform the roles of aggressor and victim. The crowd plays the role of audience. The more people watch, the more real the performance becomes. The moment grows stronger because attention feeds it. Compassion weakens when curiosity leads. The researcher ends the day with a clear result. The crowd could not look away, and by staying still, they helped the harm continue. A student sits alone in a small room. He works on a questionnaire about everyday problems. The task feels dull. He answers slowly, reading each question twice. A researcher placed him here to wait. He believes others are taking the same survey in nearby rooms. The setting feels safe. Nothing hints at danger. Then smoke begins to slide through the vent near the floor. It is thin at first, easy to ignore. The student wrinkles his nose. He glances at the door, but continues writing. He thinks the smoke might be from a nearby machine. He tells himself it must be a mistake in the building system. He assumes someone else will deal with it. The smoke grows thicker. The smell reaches him. He coughs. He looks around again. No one enters. No alarm sounds. The silence gives him permission to wait. He taps his pencil and reads the next question. His mind argues with itself. One voice says he should leave. Another says he should finish the task. The experiment has begun. In another room, a second student faces the same situation. Smoke seeps into his space too, but he is not alone. Two actors sit nearby. They were told to stay calm no matter what. They continue their paperwork without expression. The student looks to them for cues. When he sees they are not concerned, he copies their behavior. He coughs, rubs his eyes, and tries to appear comfortable. Conformity stands in the doorway, blocking action. The smoke thickens. The second student stands halfway. He opens his mouth to speak, but the actors do not move. Their stillness sends a message louder than words. He sits again. His instincts lose to the pressure of fitting in. If others stay quiet, he thinks he must be overreacting. He decides to wait longer. Waiting steals time. In a third room, a student works completely alone. Smoke fills his space the same way. Within seconds, he drops his pencil. He rises and checks the door. He calls out for help. When no one answers, he walks into the hall in search of the researcher. His body reacts to danger without needing approval. His courage arrives as a first response, not a last choice. He leaves the building before the smoke becomes unbearable. The researcher takes notes. He sees how having others present changes everything. The students alone respond faster. They treat the smoke as real, they protect themselves quickly, but those in groups wait. They hope someone else will solve the problem. They fear doing something unnecessary or dramatic. They fear embarrassment more than danger. The study continues with different groups. Some include 3 actors, some include only 1. The more people present, the slower the reaction. Responsibility spreads thin. Each person waits for someone else to lead. Silence becomes a signal that everything is fine. The smoke continues to fill the air. A student coughs harder. He wipes tears forming from irritation. He feels the need to leave, but checks faces again. The others remain calm. He tries to convince himself that the discomfort is temporary. He avoids the growing fear because acting on fear alone feels risky. He does not want to stand alone. One student grows visibly distressed. He leans forward and covers his mouth. He asks if there is a fire. The actor next to him says, "I'm sure it's nothing." The calm tone pushes back against worry. The student nods, though his eyes show concern. Doubt guides him back to his chair. Courage arrives late when no one else shows it first. The smoke continues to fill the room for several minutes. Eventually, some students in groups do get up. They rise slower than the ones alone. They leave with uncertainty. They walk into the hallway and ask if anyone else smells something. They apologize for bothering the researchers. They downplay their actions as if they need permission to protect themselves. The experiment ends when the researcher enters and explains the situation. The smoke came from a harmless source. The building was never at risk. The students sit, rubbing their eyes and coughing softly. They listen to the results, a little ashamed. They learn they delayed action because they used the group as a guide. The lack of concern from others gave them a false picture of safety. They trusted social cues more than their own senses. They did not fail to see danger. They failed to respond to it. In real life, emergencies rarely announce themselves with certainty. People check each other before they check the threat. They wait to see panic in someone else's eyes. When no one looks afraid, everyone stays calm, even when fear would save them. The experiment shows that courage is not always instinct. Courage is a skill. It grows stronger with practice. People need experience acting first, not waiting for someone else to move. They need to learn that being wrong about danger is better than being silent in a real emergency. A student walks away after the debrief. He thinks about times he stayed quiet when something felt off. He remembers holding back because others seemed fine. He wonders what would change if he trusted his own reaction more. He wonders why he needed strangers' approval to be safe. Another student who acted quickly holds his head high. He did not wait for permission. He believed his own senses. He realizes that moving first takes confidence, not knowledge. He knows the difference now. He knows hesitation can delay safety. The fake emergency did not threaten anyone's life, but it revealed something that can. A volunteer sits at a table with a small stack of envelopes. Each envelope contains a written request from a charity and a few dollars for postage. The volunteer's task looks simple. He must mail letters asking for donations to help local families in need. The researcher explains that his time will be compensated. The volunteer nods and begins working. He places a stamp. He seals the envelope. He stacks it neatly. He does the job as instructed. The researcher watches from across the room. He notes how the volunteer completes each action with focus. The volunteer does not question whether he is helping anyone. He knows he is paid to fold paper and place stamps. That is enough to guide his hands. Later, a second volunteer arrives. She receives the same envelopes and letters, but the instructions differ. She will not be paid. The researcher tells her the project depends on volunteers like her. He says each letter could make a difference in someone's life. She smiles and begins sealing envelopes. Her movements look careful. She double-checks each address to avoid mistakes. Two people doing the same activity feel different responsibility. The experiment unfolds over multiple sessions. Some participants know they will earn money for their effort. Others believe they are giving time freely. The letters look identical. The work displays the same goal. But motivations shift outcomes. The paid volunteers finish faster. They treat the work like a task with a clear price. They count how many envelopes they finish. Productivity becomes the measure of success. They do not add personal touches. They do not spend extra minutes smoothing corners or writing notes of encouragement. They do the work required, nothing more. The unpaid volunteers sometimes finish fewer letters. but they linger on the meaning behind each one. Some whisper hopes that the request reaches someone generous. Some ask the researcher questions about the families in need. They invest care because their only reward is the belief that they are helping. In another part of the study, volunteers must choose whether to donate part of their earnings from a different task. They sort coins for an hour. When finished, they receive cash for their time. A donation jar on the table offers a chance to share some of the money. Those paid for charitable tasks give less. They see kindness as labor. Labor earned them money. They think generosity should not cost them extra. A few drop in small coins. They say every bit helps, but they hold tight to the bills they earned. Those who worked without pay give more. They feel connected to the cause because they never viewed the task as a transaction. Their hands open more easily when no one bought their kindness before. The researcher observes how payments shift the purpose. When money enters the picture, people reframe helping as a job. They adjust their behavior to match that frame. They trade internal motivation for external reward. Another part of the experiment tests direct interaction. Volunteers walk through a hallway to meet someone who needs help lifting a box. Some volunteers think they are part of a social study and will receive extra money for each helpful action. Others think the situation is real and unrelated to their assignment. A man approaches. He acts as if he struggles to pick up the heavy box. Volunteers paid to help pause. They calculate whether the effort is worth the payout. They treat the task like a transaction. Some help only enough to claim credit. Some refuse to help if the reward seems small. Volunteers not expecting payment bend down immediately. They lift the box without hesitation. They ask where it needs to go. They do not worry about time or gain. They want to relieve someone's struggle because it feels right. The researcher sees a quiet truth. Incentives shape values. Payment can remove meaning. When kindness becomes a commodity, people change their behavior to match the price tag. They stop thinking about the person receiving help and focus on their own benefit. One volunteer faces a unique twist. She helps without pay on her first day. She feels good afterward. She talks about the families and imagines the difference she could make. On the second day, the researcher offers payment for the same task. She accepts the money. She continues working. But something changes in her hands. She works faster, less carefully. She talks less about the cause. Her focus moves from meaning to money. The same task now feels less noble. She wonders why she feels different. She wonders why being paid made the work feel lighter and heavier at the same time. The kindness remains the same. The motivation does not. Another volunteer works the opposite pattern. He gets paid first. He treats the envelopes like chores. On the second day, the researcher tells him the funding has changed. There is no more payment, but the work still matters. He shrugs and continues anyway. His effort slows. He wonders if his time should be free when someone once paid for it. He loses the sense of purpose he never built. The experiment reveals something about giving that often stays hidden. When money steps into the space where generosity used to sit, it can push generosity out. People see helping as work rather than choice. They lose some connection to the outcome. They question why they should do more than the minimum. The stranger paid to be kind does not always feel like a kinder person. Money does not erase compassion, but it changes how the mind frames it. Payment sets a limit. It tells the volunteer where kindness ends and compensation begins. Without money, kindness has no boundary. It comes from a deeper source. It grows from the belief that people deserve care simply because they exist. Does charity still count when there's a paycheck at the end? The hands doing the work still move. The letters still travel. The boxes still get lifted. But inside the decision-making, the story changes. The stranger paid to be kind must wrestle with the question, was I helping for them or for me? A student sits in a waiting room with soft lighting and beige walls. He fills out a survey about campus life. The researcher told him this part of the study would be boring. He believes it. He taps his pencil while thinking about lunch plans. He does not expect anything unusual to happen here. Then smoke slides into the room from a small vent near the ceiling. It looks thin at first, like fog from cold weather. The student looks up. He pauses. He stares for a moment, trying to understand what he sees. The smell of something burning reaches his nose. He coughs lightly and glances at the door. He waits for someone to rush in. He expects an alarm. Nothing happens. He returns to his survey. He thinks the building must be doing maintenance work. He does not want to seem dramatic. He decides to focus on the paper in front of him. The room continues to fill with smoke. In another room, 3 students sit together. The smoke enters their space the same way. They all notice it. Eyes shift from the vent to each other. One person looks worried. She bites her lip. She considers speaking, but the others seem calm. Silence spreads faster than concern. No one moves. The experiment in both rooms tests the same idea: how people respond to signs of danger when they are alone versus when they are surrounded by others who choose inaction. The student alone reacts in under a minute. He pushes back his chair. He stands. He steps into the hallway and calls out for someone to help. His body listens to instinct. The uncertainty pushes him to leave. He does not think about embarrassment. He thinks about safety, but the group behaves differently. The smoke thickens. It hangs in the air like a gray cloud. Eyes water. The smell grows strong. Still, no one stands. No one says fire. The quiet whispers inside their minds argue with their senses. If the danger is real, why does no one else act? This is pluralistic ignorance. Each member of the group assumes the others know more. They interpret the calm expressions around them as proof that everything is fine. They mistake silent doubt for silent confidence. Someone finally coughs. He fans the air in front of his face. He glances again at his friends. He wants to leave, but fears being seen as overreacting. He chooses discomfort over isolation. The smoke reaches the corner where a woman sits. She blinks fast. She notices her heartbeat quicker. She wants to run, but she stays still because running alone feels harder than breathing smoke with others. Denial rises faster than danger. The researcher watches through a hidden camera. He sees control shift from logic to group behavior. He sees adults ignore their senses because everyone else ignores theirs. The smoke continues creeping across the ceiling. In the solitary room, the student has already found the researcher. The staff acts quickly to stop the test. He did not wait for smoke to become fire. He did not require approval. Courage arrived on time. Back with the group, one student finally speaks. He says, "Do you smell something?" The others laugh in a forced way. They say maybe the heater is acting up. They try to make the moment feel normal. They joke to reduce tension. They convince themselves everything is under control. They choose false comfort over real caution. The smoke now fills half the room. The group coughs more. Shirts rise to cover mouths. The woman who wanted to run reaches for her bag but does not stand. She waits for someone else to lead. When that leadership does not come, she sinks back into her chair. The researcher ends the session. He enters with a firm voice. He points to the smoke. He tells them they should have acted sooner. He informs them that the experiment was designed to test emergency response and that many made the same choice they made. Some students look shocked. Others look embarrassed. A few defend themselves. They say they thought the smoke was harmless. They say the others looked calm. They blame each other's silence. The researcher reveals the main takeaway. People base their decisions not only on what they see, but on what they think everyone else believes. If one person shows denial, others follow. If one person shows inaction, others freeze. The room full of smoke was never a real emergency, but the slow reaction exposes what could happen in one. A group can sit inside danger and convince itself there is no threat. The more people present, the more hesitation grows. A student with glasses shakes his head and rubs his eyes. He says that if he had been alone, he would have gotten up. The researcher nods. He tells him most people act faster when they have no audience. Confidence appears when judgment disappears. The woman who wanted to run presses her palms together. She realizes she felt fear early, but ignored it to match the others. She learns that courage is not simply knowing what to do. Courage is acting without waiting for approval. Another student asks how to break the spell of silence. The researcher replies that one voice can change everything. When one person stands and treats the danger seriously, the others follow. People do not lack concern. They lack a trigger that tells them concern is allowed. Later that night, one of the participants walks past a kitchen where smoke rises from a pan on the stove. She smells it and remembers sitting in that room. She does not wait to see who will move first. She turns off the burner. She opens a window. She reacts fast because she learned what waiting felt like. She remembers the room full of smoke and the moment when denial rose faster than danger. A student sits in a quiet lab with headphones on. A researcher explains the task. The student must watch a screen and decide who receives a limited supply of medicine. The scenario looks like a video game, but the researcher says the simulation models real public health situations. The medicine can save lives. The student cannot save everyone. He sees two groups of people. One group consists of older adults. They look tired. Some lie down on cots. The other group shows children who need the same treatment. The researcher tells the student there are not enough doses for all. He must choose who gets them first. He hesitates. He wants more information. The researcher gives none. The timer counts down. He must pick a wrong answer and convince himself it is right enough. He chooses the children. His pulse rises. He thinks he did what most people would do. He tries to believe the decision makes sense. The researcher moves forward. The next scenario loads. This time, the choice changes. The student must choose between people who committed a crime and people who did not. They all suffer from the same illness. The medicine has the same effect. He sees faces on the screen. Some look angry, some look afraid. He wonders if the crime deserves punishment through denial of care. The clock ticks. He does not like how little time he has. He chooses the innocent group. The selection feels like judgment more than help. Urgency pushes ethics into a corner. Another screen appears. It shows workers in a factory and people unemployed at home. They both need help, but the simulation allows only one group to receive full support. The student tries to weigh fairness. Workers support the economy. Unemployed people support families too. The timer forces him to act before the thought is clear. He picks the workers because he thinks they bring more value. His stomach knots. He does not enjoy making choices like this. In another part of the study, a different volunteer must choose between two patients in a hospital setting. One patient is young and has a high chance of survival if treated. The other is older and likely to die soon. The volunteer knows the young patient will benefit more from the medicine. He selects the young patient. He looks away from the screen. He tries not to think about the life he withdrew support from. Some decisions feel like harm dressed up as logic. The researcher notes how anxiety changes each reaction. Volunteers want to help, but must deny someone help every time. The limited supply creates pressure. They watch the countdown tick away like someone's breath running out. The participants soon stop seeing individuals. They see categories. They pick the group with more future potential. They justify the choice by numbers instead of names. This makes the decision easier but colder. They forget that every person on the screen represents a story. Urgency turns empathy into math. Another volunteer faces a different ethical squeeze. She must choose which neighborhood gets firefighters when both burn at once. One neighborhood has wealth and strong infrastructure. The other struggles with poverty. She hesitates because she knows the poorer area may suffer more without help. But the wealthy area has more houses close together. Fire could spread faster. The timer hurries her. She picks the wealthy area. Smoke grows in the other corner of the screen. She feels responsible even though it was only a simulation. The researcher sees a pattern. When time shrinks, morality shifts. People abandon ideals they hold in calm moments. They make fast judgments based on stereotypes or assumptions. They choose one wrong to avoid another. Their decisions reveal how thin personal ethics can become under pressure. One volunteer receives a scenario about limited shelter during a disaster. The available space can save families with children or individuals without families. He chooses the families, but he wonders if he just valued one type of life more than another. He tells himself urgency forced his hand. The timer keeps taking away comfort. Another participant must choose who gets food. People who work to gather supplies, or people who arrived late and missed their chance. She believes in fairness. She wants to help everyone. But the scenario says resources cannot stretch far enough. She gives food to those who worked. She feels cruel. She does not like the reasoning, but uses it anyway. Ethics crumble when urgency chooses for us. The study ends with a final test. 2 people on the screen need CPR. The volunteer can save only one. The timer counts down. Both appear the same age, same situation. No distinguishing detail. He tries to decide, but the pressure makes it impossible. The timer hits 0. Both flatline. He covers his face with his hands. He says the choice was unfair. He says real emergencies must feel like this. The researcher nods. The volunteers gather for a debrief. The researcher explains that the goal was not to measure moral judgment, but to reveal how stress reshapes morality. People want to save everyone, but when forced, they create a hierarchy of deservingness. They rely on shortcuts that they would reject in ordinary life. They realize their decisions were not based on what they believed. Their decisions were based on the clock. A researcher sits across from a participant in a quiet interview room. The walls hold neutral colors. A desk lamp casts soft light. The researcher smiles with interest. He tells the participant that he wants to understand how people cope with personal challenges. The participant nods. He thinks this conversation might help someone else someday. He relaxes his shoulders. The researcher asks about daily life first. Work, commute, sleep. The questions feel harmless. Then he leans forward and asks deeper ones. He asks about fear. He asks about the last time the participant felt alone. He asks who the participant trusts. The participant pauses. He feels his throat tighten. No one asked him questions like this recently. He takes a breath and answers. He confesses that some nights feel long. He says he worries his friends only stay close when things go well. Saying the words out loud feels like relief. The researcher nods with soft eyes. He writes notes in a quiet rhythm. The participant mistakes observation for empathy. The researcher's focus feels like understanding. Trust given freely. The questions grow even more personal. The researcher asks about childhood. He asks whether the participant ever felt like he had to pretend to be someone else. He asks if he feels good enough most days. The participant swallows and answers honestly. Truth comes easier when someone listens without judgment. He tells a story about the time he failed a final exam and thought he disappointed his parents. He describes sitting alone on the steps outside the school, trying not to cry. The researcher encourages him to continue. The participant thinks he found someone who cares, but the researcher only needs data. Another participant sits in a similar room later that day. She smiles through the first questions. She jokes to hide her nerves. The researcher laughs. She relaxes. When he asks about people who hurt her, she hesitates. She looks away. The researcher waits in silence. The quiet feels safe. She begins to share a memory she did not plan to revisit. She talks about losing a close friendship and how she blamed herself. She speaks slowly, choosing careful words. The researcher nods again. His expression looks warm. She continues. Each detail becomes another line in his notes. Heartbreak collected as data. The researcher's tone never shifts. He does not judge. He does not interrupt. He learns what each participant guards behind daily smiles. He knows silence opens more doors than pressure. The study depends on trust, and the researcher earns it with false comfort. His clipboard fills with stories people rarely speak aloud. The participants believe the researcher cares because he acts like someone who cares. Their minds connect attention with compassion. Many people go days without feeling truly listened to. When someone finally listens, they open their hearts. The researcher ends each session with gratitude. He thanks the participant for sharing. He says their honesty helps the study. He escorts them out politely. They leave thinking they formed a connection. They walk down the hallway, holding the strange warmth of being understood. They do not know the truth yet. In the debrief session, the researcher reveals the study's purpose. He explains that he acted caring to gather genuine emotional confessions. He says the questions were designed to build rapid trust. He does not apologize. He says the deception allowed the research to succeed. He hands them a written explanation about ethical guidelines and confidentiality. Some participants nod. They accept the explanation. They understand that research sometimes requires disguise. They walk away with calm acceptance. Others react differently. They stare at the researcher in disbelief. They realize the comfort they felt came from performance. They do not feel proud of their honesty anymore. They feel exposed. Their stories now sit in a file as material, not memories. They trusted someone who never planned to hold their emotions with care. One participant rubs his eyes and asks why the researcher did not warn him earlier. He says he thought the conversation mattered. Her researcher says the feelings still matter because they reveal how people bond. The participant forces a small smile and leaves. He keeps his hands in his pockets, like he wants to protect the pieces of himself he gave away too easily. Another participant frowns and crosses her arms. She asks if the researcher enjoyed watching her cry. He replies with a flat voice that he only observed. She shakes her head. She walks out without taking the paper that explains the study. She feels foolish for believing attention meant care. The researcher notes all these reactions too. The experiment shows something about trust. People want to believe that kindness is real. They assume care exists when someone acts like they care. Tone, eye contact, and silence become clues. When those clues add up, the mind builds connection fast. Trust does not require proof. It requires need. The participants enter the room, seeking to do a good job. They leave reminded that listening can be a tool. They learn that empathy can be part of a script. They learn that someone can look at them with soft eyes while thinking only of the results. The researcher closes his notebook at the end of the day. He does not think about the stories anymore. He thinks about patterns in the data. He marks down how quickly trust developed. He counts the confessions. He categorizes emotion like items in storage. He files away heartbreak as if it were a number. A man walks down a sidewalk lined with small shops and busy people. The afternoon sun casts long shadows. He notices a wallet near a bus stop. It lies flat and open, as if it fell from someone's pocket seconds ago. A credit card sticks out. A photo of a smiling child peeks through a plastic window. He pauses. He looks around. People pass by without seeing it. The moment becomes a quiet test. No one asked him to stop. No one knows he noticed. He must decide what to do without any audience. He kneels and picks up the wallet. It feels heavier than the items inside would suggest. Money rests in the main pocket. 2 folded bills and a few worn receipts sit next to each other. The man wonders who dropped it. He imagines the person searching through their pockets later, panic rising as the loss becomes clear. His thoughts split into choices. He could walk to the nearest shop and ask if someone reported a missing wallet. He could look for identification inside. He could leave it where it is and hope the owner retraces their steps. Or he could slip the money into his pocket and drop the empty wallet into a trash bin. What he does now belongs to him alone. A woman approaches. The man steps aside to let her walk by. She continues without looking down. He realizes he has all the time he needs. He opens the wallet again. He sees the address on a license. The owner lives nearby. Returning it might take a few minutes. Keeping it would take one motion. He puts the wallet back on the ground for a moment. He feels the weight of the choice shifting. He picks it up again and wipes dust from the cover. No one is watching. In many places, researchers have tested this exact situation. They drop wallets on sidewalks or benches. They track how often strangers return them. They note which cities respond with more honesty. They study what changes when the wallet contains cash or a key or a note. They learn that moral behavior in quiet places reveals real character. Some people walk past the wallet. They see it but pretend not to. They fear becoming responsible for someone else's problem. They worry about awkward conversations or wasted time. They convince themselves the wallet belongs to someone returning soon. They leave the scene and feel relieved. They never see the owner's panic later. Others take only the money. They leave the wallet behind so the owner may not feel the full loss. They tell themselves they took less than they could have. They build comfort from small justifications. They say the owner might not miss a few bills. They hide their decision from everyone, even themselves. One man in a past test picked up a wallet with $50 inside. He held it for a long moment. He imagined the owner and imagined himself in the owner's place. He removed the cash. Then he felt wrong. He put the cash back. That small reversal became his real decision. What we do when the world isn't watching says everything. The man at the bus stop checks the street again. He steps into a nearby shop and asks the barista if anyone reported a lost wallet. She shakes her head. The man then wonders if handing the wallet to a stranger in a store is wise. Lost property can travel through many hands, and trust weakens with each handoff. He leaves the shop and stands on the sidewalk again. He holds responsibility that no one else sees. He decides to find the address. He walks a few blocks, reading street signs until a house number matches the one in his hand. He stands at the doorstep and hesitates. Knocking feels bold. What if the owner does not trust him? What if they think he took something? His heart beats fast. He almost turns back. The door opens. A woman peers out. He explains why he is here and holds up the wallet. Her eyes widen. She steps outside and checks the pockets. Everything looks the same as before. She exhales in relief. She thanks him gently. She asks his name. He tells her. She smiles. Then she returns inside, clutching the wallet like a second chance. He walks away. No one filmed the moment. No crowd witnessed his decency. The world continues like nothing happened. In another version of the study, A wallet contains a note that reads, "This money is for rent. Please, if found, return." The return rate jumps. Human connection increases honesty. When people see evidence of need, they feel responsible. Without the note, the wallet feels like lost property. With a note, it feels like someone's lifeline. Researchers find that honesty rises when a photo of a child sits inside. Faces turn responsibility into reality. People help a story, not an object. The picture reminds them that loss hurts more than inconvenience. It affects family, not just finances. Some people choose kindness quickly. They do not think twice. Others argue with themselves before acting. Both paths lead to the same result. They return what is not theirs. They protect someone they have never met. A city street does not celebrate these choices. A returned wallet does not earn applause. But generosity without witnesses has weight. It stays in the mind longer because it never asked for reward. The data from these experiments shows a pattern. When people believe they are invisible, their actions reveal the values they actually hold. It becomes a pure moment. No score, no recognition, only choice. The man who returned the wallet does not tell his friends about it later. He does not expect the owner to remember his face, but he remembers his own decision. He remembers where he stood and what he chose not to keep. He remembers the quiet moment when no one else cared what he would do, and still he cared. A researcher sits across from a young woman in a quiet office. He speaks with a calm voice and asks about her childhood. She answers simple questions. She remembers family vacations, a favorite teacher, and a dog she loved. The memories come naturally, and she smiles as she talks. Then the researcher changes direction. He asks if she remembers getting lost in a shopping mall when she was 5. She frowns. She says she does not think that happened. The researcher nods slowly. He does not push. He continues with other questions about school and friends. They talk for several minutes. Before the session ends, he asks again about the mall. He says her parents mentioned it in a previous interview. He says she cried and a security guard helped her. She tries to picture it. She searches through her mind like flipping pages in a photo album. Still nothing comes. He thanks her for participating and says they will meet again next week. She leaves thinking about the missing memory. A week later, she returns. She feels more certain now. She tells the researcher she might recall bright lights overhead and a kind man in a uniform. She says she remembers how big the mall looked. She describes a moment where she thought she saw her mother through a glass window. The researcher nods and writes notes. None of this ever happened. Suggestion has begun to steal the truth from her own past. This study repeats with many volunteers. The researcher plants a simple, false event into each person's childhood story. Sometimes it is a park incident. Sometimes it is a family wedding mishap. Sometimes it is a lost pet they never owned. The details vary, but the method stays the same. They ask once, they wait, then they ask again. The mind fills the gap. The young woman thinks harder. She pictures them all. It becomes vivid. She remembers the smell of popcorn from a kiosk nearby. She feels the fear of not finding her parents. Her imagination shapes the memory like clay, smoothing the edges until it looks like truth. She does not realize imagination just replaced reality. A different volunteer faces a similar test. He is told that as a child, he pushed someone off a bike and ran away. He laughs at first. He says he never did such a thing. The researcher nods. He thanks him and moves on. The second session reveals a shift. The man now wonders if he was a rough kid. He says maybe he bumped into someone by accident. The researcher nods again and asks if the other child cried. The man says yes, he thinks so. He looks down, embarrassed. His voice softens when he talks about childhood guilt. A false memory grows from a seed of suggestion. The human brain does not record life like a camera. Memories behave more like stories we rewrite each time we tell them. When someone we trust offers a detail, we often accept it. We place that detail into our story. Once it sits inside the memory network, it connects to emotions, sounds, and images stored nearby. It becomes difficult to separate fact from suggestion. A woman in her 40s joins the study. The researcher asks if she ever broke a window while playing. She shakes her head. She says she was always careful. In the next session, he repeats the question. He adds that a neighbor might have mentioned it. She thinks. She searches for a reason she forgot. By the third session, she remembers the sound of glass. She describes how shocked she felt as the pieces fell. She apologizes as if the event still matters. Her cheeks turn pink. The researcher writes it down. She now believes the lie belongs to her life. Another version of the experiment uses photographs. The researcher edits an image to place the participant inside a hot air balloon. Some have never been near one. The researcher tells them they wrote it as a child. He asks them to describe how it felt. At first, they say they cannot remember. Later, they recall wind on their face. They recall seeing rooftops below. They describe details that never existed. The photo became proof the mind trusted. Suggestion does not just distort memory. It creates memory. People believe these new memories because they contain emotion: fear, joy, guilt, embarrassment. The brain treats emotional content as evidence. The stronger the feeling, the more real the memory becomes. The mind confuses "I can imagine it" with "I experienced it." The researchers reveal the truth only after the study ends. Participants stare at their own words in disbelief. They flip through notes that show how their stories changed. Some laugh out of shock. Others feel uneasy. They realize they cannot trust the past completely. A woman crosses her arms. She insists she remembers them all. The researcher repeats that it never happened. She shakes her head. She refuses to let go of a memory she built herself. The illusion has roots now. Removing it feels like losing a piece of identity. False memories feel real because the brain wants a story that makes sense, even if it must invent it. Outside the lab, people experience this every day. Families argue about who said what years ago. Friends disagree about details of old events. A child thinks a photograph is a memory until they learn it was taken before they were old enough to understand the moment. Stories get retold, polished, exaggerated. Over time, the new version replaces the original. Memory serves meaning, not accuracy. The study exposes how vulnerable we are to influence. A gentle suggestion from someone trusted can change the shape of our past. A repeated idea can overwrite truth. Even doubt can be replaced with confidence. A real event and a false one sit side by side in the mind, and the mind often chooses the one with the most emotional weight. The young woman who imagined them all now feels a strange emptiness. She asks how many other memories she believes came from her own imagination. She thinks about childhood stories told by relatives. She wonders which ones she lived and which ones she simply learned. The truth feels less solid than before. ... Almost to the brim. A student walks through a busy hallway on his college campus. He blends into the crowd. He keeps his head down and moves with the flow of bodies between classes. Nothing about his day feels special. He expects no surprises. A researcher stands near the end of the hall. She holds a clipboard, but she does not stop anyone or ask for signatures. She waits for one student to pass, then another. She studies their faces, noticing small details like tired eyes or anxious frowns. Each person looks like they carry something heavy. Then she begins the real experiment. The next student who approaches wears a jacket that looks new. The researcher smiles and says, "I like your jacket." Her voice sounds simple, nothing forced. The student looks startled. He pauses mid-step. He thanks her, unsure what else to say. His face changes. His shoulders lift a little. He walks away slower, with more confidence in his stride. The researcher marks down the reaction. A few minutes later, she compliments another student's shoes. That student laughs with surprise. She says they are her favorite pair. She thanks the researcher with a warm tone and continues walking. Her smile lasts longer than the conversation. Compliments cost nothing, but they change something real inside a person. A researcher on another part of campus tries a different version of the experiment. She gives compliments to a group of people passing by a vending machine. She comments on a unique hairstyle or a well-chosen backpack. Then she offers each person a small choice. They can have a snack paid for by the study, or they can donate the snack to a basket labeled "free for someone else." Most people choose the donation. The compliment shifts their mindset. They feel appreciated. They want to pass that feeling forward. Kindness multiplies when someone receives it first. Another part of the study looks at how compliments affect social behavior. Some students receive praise about their appearance. Others hear praise about effort. "You look like you worked hard today," or "I admire how focused you seem." The researcher measures how many hold doors open or help someone pick up dropped books afterward. The group praised for effort becomes more helpful. They feel seen for who they are, trying to be, rather than what they look like. The compliment turns their attention outward. They notice others sooner. They respond faster to small needs. A simple positive word redirects a day. A student who usually walks fast and avoids eye contact hears a compliment about her colorful notebook. She blushes. She slows down. Later, she holds the door open for a stranger who is still several steps away. She would not normally wait that long. Something changed in the space between her ears. It does not feel like a big decision. It feels natural. The compliment reminded her she exists in a shared world. In another test, volunteers form small discussion groups. Before they begin, the facilitator gives half the group a compliment that sounds sincere. "You seem like someone who communicates clearly," she tells one participant. "You strike me as thoughtful," she says to another. When the group starts talking, the praised individuals take more part in the conversation. They speak with ease. They share ideas freely. They look comfortable. The unpraised participants hold back at first. They hesitate. They pick their words slowly. The difference comes from 5 seconds of positive language. Some compliments reach deeper than the research expected. One participant hears, "I like your laugh," after she chuckles at a joke. She stops. She says no one ever complimented her laugh before. She smiles in a new way. She joins the conversation with greater warmth. Her voice sounds lighter. The researcher notes that compliments work because they highlight something people fear is invisible. Even small comments hold power. "You have a kind voice. That color suits you. You explain things well." These statements do not solve problems, but they give strength. They expand the moment a person stands in. They turn the day into something better than before. Not every reaction looks big. One student hears, "Nice pen." He nods shyly. He does not smile much. But later, he buys the same kind of pen in a different color. He wants to feel that moment again. The researcher watches behavior long after the compliment is given. She sees students walk more upright. She sees less fear in their posture. She sees them greet others sooner. Kindness given once does not fade when the words stop. It echoes through later choices. A contrasting part of the study asks what happens when compliments disappear. In another hallway, the researcher stands with a clipboard and says nothing. She observes how students walk with focused expressions and tense shoulders. These students avoid eye contact. Their steps stay quick. No shift in posture. No ripple of kindness follows them. Human connection does not happen automatically. It needs a spark. The researcher meets again with a participant who cried earlier in the day. The participant explains that the compliment came at a time when she felt invisible. She says no one noticed her new haircut that morning. She worried the week would stay heavy. Then a stranger offered a sentence that reset her thinking. The compliment did not change the world. It changed how she walked through it. Researchers deliver these findings with calm confidence. They do not say compliments solve everything, but they show that positive attention changes behavior in ways that matter. Small words can lift someone, and that lift can reach others through new actions. A student walks home after receiving a compliment about his smile. He thinks about how easy it was for the researcher to notice something good. He decides he will try to do the same. He stops in front of a friend's apartment and sends a quick message. "You do a great job listening." He hits send before he overthinks it. Compliments cost nothing, but in the right moment, they feel like a gift. A volunteer sits at a small table in a plain room. A cardboard puzzle rests in the center. The pieces look scattered, but manageable. The researcher tells him he must solve the puzzle alone. He will receive a reward if he finishes quickly. The volunteer nods and starts. He flips pieces to reveal the printed picture. He builds the border first, like many puzzle solvers do. In a different room nearby, another volunteer works on the same puzzle. She moves with focus. She knows the sooner she completes it, the better her reward. She does not know about the volunteer next door. She thinks she is the only one solving this image. Both feel alone with a task that requires patience. The researcher watches from behind a window. He sees how each person handles the challenge. Some tap their fingers when they get stuck. Some sigh. Some talk to themselves. The puzzle shows how people react when they want a reward, but must earn it by themselves. Later, the researcher changes one rule. He brings two volunteers into a shared room. The puzzle sits between them. The researcher says they can work together or work alone. The reward will go only to the person who finishes the most pieces. The rule is clear: competition. At first, they sort pieces silently. They claim pieces that look useful. They set aside ones they might need later. They avoid eye contact. They treat each other as obstacles, not teammates. But the puzzle moves slowly this way. The edges stay incomplete for too long. One volunteer reaches for a piece at the same time as the other. Their hands bump. They laugh out of awkwardness. The moment opens a small door. They speak for the first time. They point to where certain pieces should go. The puzzle begins to grow faster through shared effort, even though the rule rewarded selfishness. Cooperation blooms, even among competitors. Still, tension rises when both reach for credit. One tries to place pieces faster. The other reaches into the pile with urgency. The puzzle turns into both a shared goal and a private fight. They want the image complete, but they want their hands to finish it. The researcher notes how this conflict shapes behavior. People want to win, but they want progress even more. They learn that connecting pieces together builds progress. They cannot complete the puzzle with isolated effort. In another version of the experiment, the researchers adjust the rule again. They tell two volunteers that if the puzzle gets completed, both will receive a prize. It will not matter who does more. The reward belongs to everyone if the goal is met. The volunteers relax. They talk more. They pass pieces across the table. One points out a corner pattern. The other snaps it into place. Helping feels natural when success is shared. A third version introduces a twist. The puzzle is missing a few pieces. The volunteers do not know this yet. They work and work, but gaps remain. At some point, frustration grows. One participant blames the other for slowing progress. The researcher steps in to show that the missing pieces were never available. They learn something important. Cooperation alone does not guarantee a clean victory, but cooperation makes the struggle feel less lonely. In a different trial, 4 volunteers sit together. They each receive their own small section of the puzzle board. They also receive a pile of pieces, but some of the pieces they need are in someone else's pile. The researchers do not tell them this. They watch what happens when competition blocks access to solutions. One volunteer stares at a gap in her section. The piece she needs lies in another pile. She sees it, but does not ask for it. She thinks the others might laugh or refuse. She keeps trying wrong pieces instead. The puzzle stalls. Another volunteer looks over and notices the problem. He slides a piece toward her without comment. She looks surprised. She snaps it into place and thanks him. That small move sets an example. Others begin trading pieces. The puzzle grows faster. They smile more. The frustration falls away. Shared rewards create shared purpose. The study shows how sensitive cooperation is to context. When rewards depend only on individual achievement, people protect what they have. They hide strategies. They value small victories over shared success. But when they learn that everyone benefits together, problems become community challenges instead of personal ones. In yet another version of the experiment, volunteers earn tokens for each piece they place. They can use tokens to buy clues for themselves or share clues with others. At first, they buy private clues, but as the puzzle slows, someone suggests sharing. Once they agree, progress speeds up again. Tokens feel less important when cooperation builds trust. One participant sits back at the end and reflects. He says the puzzle seemed impossible until they worked as a group. He admits he wanted to win at first. But winning alone would not have felt satisfying. Helping others changed the feeling of the task. Success became a team experience. The researcher writes this down. Cooperation does not require people to forget their own goals. It requires people to believe shared goals matter too. In the final version of the study, the researcher puts a single puzzle in the center of a large group. He tells them that only one person will receive a reward. People rush at first. They grab pieces. They ignore others. The puzzle grows in scattered areas. They compete for progress. But puzzles need structure, and structure requires communication. One person decides to take control. She moves pieces around, making space. Others follow her lead. She does not order anyone. She shares her plan out loud. They adopt it because it helps everyone. The reward becomes secondary. The puzzle becomes primary. Even when competition tries to isolate people, cooperation can break through. People want to solve problems together, especially when the problem looks bigger than one person. The Lonely Room with a Puzzle teaches a basic truth about human nature. We can act selfish because we want to succeed. We can act generous because we want others to succeed with us. But when the reward is shared, the instinct to cooperate rises quickly. Our hands reach not only for the next piece, but for each other. A group of people gathers in a small meeting room. They sit around a table with notepads and pens. The researcher stands beside a large poster attached to the wall. The poster displays a short statement about a new health rule on campus. It says that drinking from public water fountains increases the risk of illness because the pipes contain harmful bacteria. The text looks official. A small logo is printed at the bottom to make the message feel legitimate. The participants read the statement. Some raise eyebrows. It sounds alarming, but they do not know enough about plumbing or disease to challenge it. The researcher says this information comes from trusted experts. He asks everyone to share their thoughts. Silence holds the room for a moment. Then, one participant speaks. She says the rule makes sense. She recalls the taste of metal from a fountain last week. She suggests the pipes may be old. Another participant nods. He says he always thought public fountains looked unsanitary. Someone else adds a story about a time she heard a rumor that fountains spread germs fast. As voices join, uncertainty fades. The statement now sounds like common knowledge. Consensus becomes king. Only one participant expresses doubt. He says he drank from fountains for years without getting sick. He asks for more evidence. The others look at him with mild irritation. They seem to think he is creating unnecessary conflict. When he sees their reactions, he stops talking. He does not want to risk being seen as difficult. He folds his arms and stays quiet. The lie grows stronger because the truth lost its only advocate. The researcher leaves the room and returns with cups of bottled water. He places them on the table. The act supports the false claim without a single word. The participants take the bottles. They feel relieved. They think they are protecting themselves. The bottled water becomes proof that the rule must be real. Belief changes behavior before anyone confirms the facts. In another version of the experiment, a different group sees the same poster. But this time, the researcher includes two actors who challenge the statement. One actor says the claim seems extreme and asks how the bacteria survive in treated water. The other actor suggests that the rule might benefit bottled water companies more than students. Now consensus split. The real participants hesitate. They look back and forth between the two sides. Doubt returns. They ask questions. They want verification. The researcher answers with unclear language. He shrugs. The participants decide the rule might not be true after all. Most say they will keep using the fountains until they see real evidence. The lie collapses when confidence weakens. The study shows that the truth does not always matter first. What matters is who speaks and how the group reacts. A weak idea can become a strong belief when many accept it without question. A strong idea can fail if most people reject it at first glance. The mind reaches for the safety of shared agreement. A second part of the experiment uses an object instead of a rule. The researcher places a simple gray rock on the desk. He tells the group the rock improves focus when held. He says students in earlier studies perform tasks faster when they touched it. He hands the rock to one participant. She holds it awkwardly. She does not feel different, but she smiles politely. The researcher asks how she feels. She hesitates, but says she feels more alert. Several others nod as if they shared the sensation. They pass the rock around. Each person invents a reaction to match the group. One says it cleared his mind. Another claims she feels energy in her hands. They act like believers. Consensus rewrites perception. One participant stays quiet while the rock passes. He does not want to pretend. But when the researcher asks him directly, he looks at the others and agrees the rock does something. He does not notice that the rock itself has no power. The agreement gives it power. The experiment shows how quickly people adopt stories that fit group expectations. They do not like standing alone. Standing alone feels like being wrong. So they match the group, even if it means trading truth for acceptance. Another session introduces a fake statistic. The researcher states that nearly 70% of students prefer studying at night. In reality, the number is closer to 30%. The participants hear the false statistic and nod. They say they always suspected that night studying was common. When asked about their own habits, some even change their answer to fit the majority. They stop reporting what they do. They report what they think others do. False consensus affects memory and judgment. People adjust their history to match a shared narrative. They forget they once believed something different. The lie becomes part of their story. The researcher interviews participants afterward. One woman insists the fountain rule sounded familiar because she read about it somewhere. She cannot remember where. Her mind mixes the new lie into old memories. The line between past and suggestion disappears. A man says he always thought night studying was more popular. He ignores the fact that he doubted the number at first. Agreement erased his doubt. Reality shifts when consensus becomes king. Outside the lab, the same effect shapes headlines, rumors, trends, and traditions. People believe ideas not because they check facts, but because others speak confidently. Fear spreads this way. So does prejudice. So does misinformation about health, safety, and the world we share. One participant in the fountain test leaves the building and tells a friend not to drink tap water. The lie travels. It grows legs. It reaches someone who never saw the poster at all. The friend takes it seriously. She fills a bottle from home for the next day. Most lies do not need evidence. They need believers. They need silence from anyone who sees the truth and chooses not to defend it. The room empties. The poster still hangs. Its false warning looks official, as if printed by authority. The researcher gathers notes about how quickly people embraced the claim. He knows that when a statement gains enough agreement, it stops being a claim and becomes a reality people live inside, even if the reality is wrong.